All right, good evening, everyone. We're meeting here together as the CWMU Advisory Committee. This is a committee that's established in rule and outlined in rule is the makeup of the committee and what the committee is meant to address. So my name is Covy Jones, and I am a non-voting chair of this committee as the Wildlife Section Chief. With that, we'll have the other members starting with Mike, introduce themselves, and we'll go through the agenda for tonight.
Mike Christensen at large.
Clint McLean, sportsman.
Mike Lauder, sportsman.
Greg Wilding at large.
Tim Fry, CWMUs.
Gary Webb, CWMU.
All right, and we're tonight, Eric Thacker he's on a plane flying back to Utah, so he's not able to be here right now. So with that, again, in rule, it outlines what this committee's intent and purpose is. And tonight, one of the intents of the committee is to review basic operations of CWMUs. So tonight we'll do that through, we have a list of CWMUs up on the board. In statute, it says that you are allowed to include public land in a CWMU when you can demonstrate public benefit. And it lists certain criteria under which you can include public land. It also commits the division to review CWMUs that have public land at a minimum every 5 years. We've chosen just to do that when we renew, which means that it's a 3-year certificate of registration for a CWMU. We just do that every 3 years, and the way that we evaluate that is with this committee. So that portion of this will be an action item. After that, we would like to discuss with the committee some potential rule changes that the agency's been thinking of. That's not an action item, that's just informational. And we'll, at the bottom there, we have a variance request for some season date variances. And in rule, this is another role of that committee, is to evaluate variance requests for elk. So with that, we'll get started. We'll turn the time over. Darren, will you be introducing these?
Yeah. So these are all these CWMUs, with a couple of exceptions, are up for renewal. So they'll be doing their renewals this summer. And so since they have public land included, we wanted to have everyone take a look at this again. Most of these have been reviewed in the past, and the committee felt like that they were okay to go, but we definitely want to take a look at these every 3 years. So what we'll do is I'll have each biologist come up, and they can kind of walk you through the map and why the public land's included. And then if you have any questions, feel free to ask. We may have some operators online. We have some here with us. So if you've got any questions for the operators, that we can do that as well. The first one is Cotton Thomas, and this is actually one that's requesting a change to their map. So this isn't one that the committee's seen in the past. So I'll have Daniel come up, and I will pull up a map. And Daniel, if you need something different, let me know. But where is that? I think I had that already. Do this one. Maybe next time I'll find a faster way to do this, but I think this is it. Okay, all right. Can you see that okay from here?
Yeah, so the Cotton Thomas CWMU is requesting a change application to include public land in their CWMU. So they've been a CWMU for quite a while. And this year they would like to try to include some public land. I'm going to move with this if that's okay. So the green is their current boundary, with the exception of that. So this non-contiguous section they are adding as per the new rule. But these three parcels here are state land. These two are Sitla properties, and this is BLM. They're requesting to include those in their CWMU boundary for a definable boundary. So this is the main road that connects Grouse Creek to Lynn. Really wide main road out there. They would like to use that as their boundary. In trade for that, they are willing to trade quite a few more acres. I don't have it in my notes, but do we have their trade lands map?
Yes.
So I believe they are requesting to add roughly 1,000 acres, maybe a little more, of public land, and their trade is, I believe, 3,000. Yeah, a little over 3,000 acres to trade. Their trade lands is within probably 10 miles to the west, kind of more higher country than, yeah. Okay, so this is the CWMU with the public land parcels they're requesting, and these are all of the parcels they're trading for. That the state line runs right here. Yeah, so any questions? Our operator is here as well, so you can have questions for him to answer.
Yeah, questions from the committee?
Daniel, do you feel like these trade lands, or do they hold game? I mean, does it feel like a fair trade?
Yes, I think so. Of the public land parcels they're asking for, that southern one isn't all that good of habitat to begin with for deer. It's kind of a big place for public lands people to camp, and they can still do that. You can't exclude them from camping on it, but not a lot of hunting goes on up there. And the northern Sitla section and BLM section they're asking for, there are deer for sure there. It's one of the, it's kind of, as you come up to the top of the pass, kind of higher country, there's water there. There are deer. But there's also deer spread throughout these areas. I haven't been to some of these smaller ones, but honestly, most private land out there is usually around springs if they're this small. So likely a lot of water here. I have spent quite a bit of time along the border in that section. I always classify quite a few deer in there. And I actually had a guy call me who's been hunting this area for his whole life and asked when that got turned into private. And it's always been private. So yeah, it is a place that I know quite a few people do hunt. There was a fire, a big Goose Creek fire in 2018 that burned through there, but it is coming back pretty well. And I think that's actually on the northern extent of it. So a lot of it didn't burn, but that more southern section probably did burn, and it's coming back pretty well. So.
Are those trade lands, are they surrounded by public? Is that all public?
Yeah.
Easy to access?
Yes, you can access pretty much all of it. Some of these little ones abut other private sections, but there is public touching some of their boundaries. So it's all accessible.
So some of the folks that have added trade lands have had different kind of rules and regulations. And will the trade lands be open just for deer hunting or for deer and elk? Are there elk there? Are they going to be open throughout the year? Can they hunt other species there? So stuff like that.
I think with the new rule, you can hunt all big game on trade lands. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Kelly, it's going to be open to everything, right? Yeah, they're open to everything all year, I assume. Yeah. Yeah, it'll be open for everything.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, Gary.
The state ground that's up on, it would be on the east side, up right along the Lynn Valley Road.
Yeah.
At one time, and I know this because I know the Wards and the Tanners, but I operate the unit next to them.
Mm-hmm.
That was in the CWMU.
Yes, I was just about to mention that.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you're good. Thanks for reminding me. I believe this trade had happened before for 1 or 2 COR cycles. It was stopped. Nobody really can remember why, but we think Todd Black was kind of operating with the CWMU at the time and pulled it out. Back when we did have that trade, this non-contiguous section was traded as well. But since the new rule allows for them to include that in the CWMU, we're letting them, we are proposing to let them add that into the CWMU and just trade the rest of it.
Got a couple questions.
Yeah, Mike.
Are these the public trade lands or the private trade lands? Are they fenced? Do we know?
Yeah. No.
They're not fenced.
Mm-mm.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
And then to piggyback off a previous question, so have they been posted in the past? I mean, I know it's private and I understand that, but has it been posted? No trespassing in the past?
I don't think so. I've never seen a sign on those bigger sections. Yeah, no. Yeah. Never been posted.
And then a lot of the feedback we get from the public is when we include public lands that people have historically hunted, and then they show up that fall not knowing that they're now in the CWMU. Do we have any kind of idea of the use of hunters on those two pieces of state land?
I don't. I know, like I said, that southern one, it's a big camping area. So it's right off the main road, and just right off the main road there's usually 3 to 4, 5, 6 trailers set up there. But as far as going behind that, I really don't think it'd be very productive. That northern one, I don't know. I couldn't tell you how much it's hunted. I know people do hunt it, but I don't know how many.
And this might be for Darren, but if we were to do this, is there a way to post it as open to public use still for camping? Because I know the feedback we've gotten in the past is it appears to be posted as private or closed to public access, and most people don't understand how it works, that it's only closed for the hunting of the species. Is there a way in the rule that we could require there is some kind of posting that says?
Yeah, the rule requires that trade lands be posted open, and the CWMU Association has a special sign. And I think we looked at those, Mike, in the committee.
We did, but I guess I'm looking at it like if we include the state land in the CWMU, can it be posted as, camping is
I see
still
what you're
allowed or
saying.
something like that? Is that something that,
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason in the rule that we couldn't. I mean, would you be amenable to that? Just posting that it's, public land, it's open to. Yeah. We could work on that, Mike. I think we might need to check in with Sitla and see what their feelings are, but yeah, that does get confusing. So, yeah.
Thanks, Paul. Looks like there are no more questions. If there are no more questions, I think we're looking for a motion on this one.
Did we get the total of the trade lands?
It was estimated. He says he thinks it was 3. Is it 3?
It's over 3,000.
Okay.
I can go look it up if you want.
Perfect. It's not, I just want to make sure, because you said, I think it's 3. I thought, I don't want to go, yeah. No, not.
I can go try to find it for you really quick.
Just to verify and summarize, Daniel, we're asking to include about 1,000 acres of public ground as a trade for about 3,000 acres of private ground to hunt on. And in your on the ground knowledge of the area, we're trading equitable, if not better, habitat for mule deer and other, I guess, elk as well. Yeah, okay.
That was a yes, for the record.
That was, yeah.
That was a yeah.
Covy, I'll make a motion. Are we ready for that?
Well, I shortcut discussion, I guess,
Okay.
which I probably should pull it back. He'll clarify the 3,000, but when he does that, committee discussion on this item.
I can bring that map back up if you want it.
So
Sorry,
we-
I got a
we-
little ahead of us.
We heard one last year that was kind of similar to this. And we did it in a way, I mean, it's been expressed by the operator that, or landowner, that they'd be open to, allowing public access for more than just the deer and the elk, like, chuckers and maybe upland game, those kind of things. If we did go ahead with this, I would like it to be stated in the motion that those other activities are also included in this. And I know that we had to do it last time where we maybe had to do it it was done in like a walk-in access program or instead of trade lands. I don't know how that works, but
I think the reason we did that was easier to post. Because in this Prohibition Springs, which we'll actually get to here in a second, but yeah, we did walk-in access so that it'd be easier for the landowner to post that open. But I think there isn't any reason we couldn't do it that way if.
well, I think it would be the same burden on this one as the other one almost. So,
Hey, Mike, are you looking for like an exception on this? So I referenced the trade land sign that we did during the rural committee. And it says in the trade land sign that CWMU and the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources, these private lands are accessible for hunting during the big game season for sportsmen with a valid big game hunting permit in Utah.
yeah, and I would be looking for something different, just because, the operator landowner is willing to allow other access like chucker hunting, where you have to be a licensed hunter. So like a walk-in management area like we did last year with Prohibition Springs, I believe it was, where we did something in that arena, which would open up that land to be, I mean, it's not posted currently, so, but it would just put everybody on the same legal ground as being open. And we've done that, and that's been done in the past also. Was that done last year on Prohibition Springs?
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's set up as a walk-in access property, and it's posted as a walk-in access property. We'd be posted, but there's no monetary compensation for it. So that's how we did it.
Yeah, and it doesn't carry the same burden as having to be posted as trade lands.
Right. Yeah. So we can, that's up to the landowner, but he's nodding his head. So we could certainly do that if that's how the committee wants to go. Okay.
For clarification, the public acres being traded is 1,433 acres, and the private lands being traded is 4,731.
I would just add that it's a great idea if the War family and the Tanners are willing to let their property be used for other things besides the big game. I think it's a great idea, and it's awful nice of you to do that too. And just in the discussion, I'll just point out, I operate the 2 units that sit on both sides of the Cotton Thomas. I know the Tanner family, the War family, they're legacy CWMU operators. They had their units in the CWMU program when it first started. They were part of that original group, and I've had nothing but great luck with them in 25 years that I've been up there. So looking at it from that perspective, as far as I'm concerned, and I know where the boundaries are, especially on the stuff that borders against me, and believe that the identifiable boundary is huge. And so they'd have my full support.
There's a reason why the advisory committee reviews these every year. In Utah, we feel pretty strongly about our public land. So I always say when we're going to do this, when we're going to make a new one that includes public land, we better have a darn good reason. Because I think 2 things are true at the same time. I fully believe in private property rights. I think that's really important to us. I also really love that we live in the West and have public land. And when I look at a trade like this, and see over a 4-to-1 trade with the biologist saying, this is a good habitat, and the landowner saying, and I'll let you hunt other species, it feels like that is a good trade to me. We're getting something there for the public. And I guess those are just my thoughts on this.
Are we internal discussion?
We're in that segment, we can end that pretty
No,
quick.
that's fine. I just think I want to say, and I don't, it's, if they want to include their bird hunting, that's great. But it seems like this is a big game trade to me. Like if we're trading, and I don't, like I said, that's very nice of you, but this feels like a big game operation to me. Like, why are we defining rules about small game? If he wants to add it to walk-in access or we want to require that, I think that's the way. I hate the thought of we change the signage for the trade lands to add small game, just to make it easier and more understood. I think walk-in access is more for small game personally, but just my thoughts.
All right, I think we beat this one up pretty good. We've got some opposing thoughts, so let's get a motion out there and see where this goes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Cotton Thomas CWMU with trade lands as proposed.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Tim and a second by Mike.
I just want to clarify with the operator that he's willing to post it as trade lands as required by the current rule.
Can you ask that again?
Yeah, so have you talked to the operator? Is he willing to post the
I don't
trade
think I
lands
have.
as open by the current rule that's been passed, which is?
I have not, no.
Okay.
So the
That's
current
pretty-
rule says the proposed trade land has to be every corner, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much, and every main road. So it'll be a lot of signs to post.
Of each parcel of property.
Yeah, and that was new as of the last CWMU rule change.
So I guess it's like to talk about the motion, I guess that in my opinion, like if we're going to do this to be cooperative, I think it's okay to trade that burden of posting and make it into a walk-in access that then benefits both parties. But the way the motion stated, you're forcing that operator to post. I mean, I don't know how many corners there were, but there was
A lot.
100 corners plus anything going in and out. And so I'm probably going to just be against the motion because I think there's other ways to do it that benefits all parties involved.
Can we ask the operator a question, Covy? Do you mind, or are we in the middle of a motion?
Well, we're in the middle of a motion, but this is discussion on the motion, so I'll allow it. This once.
So Kelly, the rule changed a couple of years ago and they made it, and in the rule that now you have to post that trade lands. It's a lot of work to post the trade lands. And is that something you're willing to do, or do you like Mike's idea of, is that what you're saying, Mike, is trade him a walk-in access versus having to post the land?
Yes, which is what we've done in the past.
So what Mike is saying is that if it's walk-in access, the division will help with the posting. If it's just trade land and CWMU, it's on the operator to post it. That's what he's trying to say.
Okay, yeah, I would say I would rather do the walk-in and, kind of get some help on the posting, because that will be a pretty big job on that part corners. So.
Can I amend my motion, Covy?
You can amend your motion.
Or should we do a new one?
Just amend your motion.
We just amend it to make it a walk-in access for big game and for the trade lands. It will be walk-in access.
So there's an amendment. Do we have a second on the amendment to make it a walk-in access property?
I'll second the amendment.
Okay. Any discussion on this? If none, call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, it's unanimous. Thank you. We made it through that one.
Okay, the next CWMU, that this is just a straight renewal, is the Double Cone CWMU, also operated by Kelly War. So this CWMU has been around pretty much since the beginning of the CWMU program. It is an elk and deer CWMU. Sorry, they're talking. It's an elk and deer CWMU that has had a few variances grandfathered in. There's a total of 5,424 acres of private land and 4,231 acres of public land that makes up the CWMU. They trade 6,784 acres of trade lands that's open to big game hunting. So this is the map I'll go over right now. So this CWMU is right here, and their trade lands are all of these red striped parcels. Got trade lands up there. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is the operator, Kelly, is he willing to, have you posted those trade lands? Are they posted, Kelly?
They've not been, no.
Because that has about just as much trade lands and more checkerboarded. And I don't know if you'd be willing to entertain the same deal you just made when that time comes, but you may want to think about that. And I will also just, well, we're not at the discussion period, sorry.
Anything else, Daniel, that you'd like to inform us on this one?
One of these sections of trade land, I mean, these are all kind of in the lower desert area, more winter range for deer and stuff. But one of those sections has four alfalfa pivots, and it pulls in a large number of elk. Every year, a handful of bulls get harvested out of their trade lands down there. So I just want to point out how valuable that little section is.
Okay, and I have another question. As we go through these, I'm distinguishing in my mind. I think the thing that we want to know more than anything is this is an existing CWMU and existing trade lands. Has anything changed in this application?
No.
Okay. Okay, does the committee have any questions on this one? No questions? Any committee discussion? Okay, so I guess as we move forward, we have a couple options on this. One, the rest of these are all renewals with no changes, as far as I know. We could hear them all and then make a motion at the end, or if the committee would like, we can hear them individually, make individual motions as we go.
My opinion is there's a reason why we're supposed to review them every 3 years, because things can change.
Okay.
In the sense we reviewed a lot of these, we had a major rule change, major legislative changes. So it might not be, some public lands might not be as advantageous for either party. And so I think we should just vote on each of them individually myself.
Okay, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. Committee discussion, seeing no questions, any discussion on this?
It's just more for I'm wondering, so same operator with Cotton Thomas that we just talked about, they have trade lands that border on their CWMU?
Yeah. Yeah, so the Cotton Thomas CWMU is comprised of two landowners. One is Jay Tanner, and the other is the Grouse Creek Livestock Association. The Double Cone CWMU has two landowners, Kelly War and Kenny War. So Kelly operates the Cotton Thomas CWMU, but doesn't have any land in it.
Okay, and I think, and one reason why I'm asking that is those upper, they're yellow on that map.
That,
Yeah, and then and then the other trade lands are marked yellow, but and then see how some of those other crosshatches are gray. Those are different CWMUs.
different trade lands for different
For
CWMUs.
Yes, but are those yellow behind the red crosshatch? Like
Are you
right
asking
there?
if that's a public land or
Yeah,
what?
is that like, it appears to be BLM because everything else is yellow, so I'm just making sure.
No.
Okay, all right. Gotcha.
Okay.
Maybe different color next time.
Yeah,
We'll work on that map. That's a really good point.
that is very confusing now that you point that out.
Yeah.
Covy, with your permission, can I chat just real quick about posting? Because we've talked about it a couple times here, and I think we've got it a little bit unclear. Would you mind if I hit that real quick?
Not at all.
Okay.
Thank you, Greg.
So just to be clear, one of the things that, and I believe it was one of the newer changes, is if you are including public ground, you do post every 300 yards on the public ground that you're hunting. But the trade lands doesn't have the same kind of posting requirement. If you read from the rule, the trade lands just says, trade lands must be posted as trade lands open to public for hunting big game. Whereas public land in your CWMU is posted along a boundary every 300 yards. So it is a more stringent requirement on the portion you're going to incorporate. Keep that in mind when you do take a big piece on like a mile, you're going to spend some time out on that boundary. But it's not clear that you need to do anything like that on the trade lands. It just needs to be posted. And so I would think that interpreted would be, in places where people are going to see it.
Yeah, I'm trying to go back to the posting requirements for private property. And the posting, if I remember in code, it is stream crossings, entries and exits and corners. And I think at a minimum, that posting requirement would be expected on trade lands. That's what has been deemed as reasonable to post private property. I think anything less than that would probably not meet the standard of posting.
And just along those same lines, the reason why I asked if it was fenced is there's a bill before the legislature right now to make it so any livestock fence would be exclusionary, and wouldn't require posting to be no trespassing. So it might take more notification for public if that passes. So.
Yeah, we'd have to navigate that depending upon what happens there. It's also corners, obviously. I didn't say corners, but it's obviously corners as well. Any more thoughts on this one? All right, hearing none, we'll call for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the double cone CWMU as presented.
Motion from Greg,
I'll second that.
second from Clint. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. As a reminder, we've talked about this a couple times. If you are using trade lands, just a reminder to operators and everybody, and division biologists, we can go help inform on this too, because we're not trying to play gotcha with anybody, but the committee felt really strongly about getting those trade lands posted. So let's make sure we work together before this next hunting season. If we have trade lands, we get them posted.
Covy, can I just add that the association has the templates for those signs? Kelly, if you need to buy some or get some, we can connect you to the right place. So.
And Gary will walk anybody's fence and post whatever they'd like him to post. Okay, all right, we'll go on to the next one.
Okay, so what information do you want from me? Just that it's
I
No
think
changes,
the
or-
primary things are what has changed. If they're trade lands, what do you see the benefit of those trade lands being? An honest biological assessment of, is this equitable for the public? And a recommendation.
okay. Well, we don't have any split recommendation, so you can assume that we're good with it. This is the Dove Creek CWMU. They have one not full section of SITLA for a definable boundary. This is a main road that cuts through here. They've traded almost 5 sections for it down here. There's definitely a little bit of a difference in the habitat ranging in this, 15-mile span. This is still pretty low, kind of foothill country. They're just using it as a definable boundary. With the main road, there can still be some deer there in the summer for sure, and in the early hunting seasons. Their trade lands down here is definitely lower country, more winter range. You do see, this is the Dove Creek Hills, you do see deer start to pile in there during their winter migration, and even starting in like October, they can move down in there. I have seen resident deer like in the muzzleloader and archery season, just kind of in the valley. So be kind of low density during that archery and muzzleloader season, with densities increasing into early rifle, and then the late muzzleloader hunt could be pretty decent down there.
Questions on this one? Just don't let Daniel off easy. All right. No questions? Discussion?
I guess I do have one quick question.
Yep.
Have you verified any of the signage requirements on the trade lands? Okay.
I have not.
Daniel, just to recap really quickly, the parcel of SITLA that they're trading is low elevation. 15 miles south, those are also low elevation.
Yeah, you can kind of see the topography. This one's kind of gets into hill country. It's definitely drier down here than up here. But I wouldn't say this is in the middle of prime habitat.
Okay.
It's like kind of marginal summer range. This is better winter range. So.
Any more discussion on this one? All right. For a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve as recommended by the division.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion by Gary, second by Tim. Those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Right along.
The next CWMU we'll be looking at is Indian Creek. This is a CWMU in the Raft Rivers. They take in about 30 or so acres of SITLA land in this corner. The rest of that SITLA parcel is in the Raft River CWMU. It's inaccessible. There's no public roads or anything to get in there. This is a pretty well-defined ridge line to separate it from the other CWMU. Since it's so small, we don't have any trade lands, and it's not enough to equal a permit, an extra permit to the public, so they get about 30 acres. It looks a little bigger than 30 acres there, but when I calculated it in ArcMap, it came out to about 30 acres. So,
What's the red?
what's the what?
What's the?
Oh, that's
dot?
a different landowner that didn't sign, so they're not in there. That's probably 5 acres or something. So,
All right. Any question for Daniel on this, the Indian Creek CWMU? Seeing none. Any discussion on this one?
Have you verified their signage on that?
no,
Okay.
I haven't verified signage on any CWMU.
Okay. Has anybody from the division verified it?
I do not know.
Usually the COs keep, but I can't say for this one, Mike, for sure, this in particular, but they're usually try to keep an eye on it. It kind of depends on where the boundary is and whether they have access. But,
So it's bordering on Raft River. Is the rest of that block in Raft River?
Yes.
Okay, so the public has no access to that anyway.
No, there's no public access at all into there.
Okay, so again, just to clarify, that corner of Sitla that goes along the road that's included there.
It's a ridge line, not a road, but yes.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
On the ridge line, it's completely private all the way around it then.
Yes, it's completely surrounded.
I always ask for questions and then go to discussion, but then I ask a question. All right. Any discussion on this one? If not, we'll look for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Indian Creek CWMU as proposed by the division.
Second.
Motion by Tim and a second by Greg. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Covy, before we get to this one, can I just make a comment about the signs, Mike? If I remember right, in the rule committee, when that was passed and that time came and left, they needed to have their trade lands posted by the time their renewal came up. So some of these don't have their trade lands, but now they'll need to if they're renewing. So by next year, I think that's what it said. Or
Well,
kind of what we thought.
I've been thinking about this too as we've gone through this. This is important. I think what the agency would look for at the end of this is just a reminder in the form of a motion of, because so this committee, the way it's set up, it makes recommendations to the agency director, so the director of the agency, and to the wildlife board. And so in the form of a motion, when we're done with this, if you make a motion to the agency to please verify that trade lands are posted prior to the next big game season, I think that's completely appropriate. Like, I don't find that offensive at all. It's a reminder to us, it gets in the notes, and because it's important, we can make sure that it gets done.
Yeah, and on that one in particular, that's not trade lands. That would be posting private lands. So it's obviously not as important where it's between the two landowners, but in other cases it would be. But that's a good clarification if the division views that they have to have it posted by the time they renew in August. So for the trade lands.
The CWMU association met last week, Mike, and I did mention in the sort of the training session to remember that that's now a requirement, and so we'll have that in their training materials. But we can verify. I think what Covy's getting at is we need to take some ownership, make sure we verify it.
Yeah, and we can work with operators to make sure this gets done. It's on us too. So. Okay.
We're done with that one?
We're done with that
Okay,
one.
sounds
Motion
good.
moved on.
Next one is North Peaks. It is a rather large CWMU that takes in some public land throughout. So you have different justifications for this SITLA and this BLM section. It's completely surrounded without any public access to it. And then we got some BLM land here that is used for a definable boundary. This is a fence line, I believe. Gary's the operator of this one. I believe this is a fence line on your northwestern boundary.
Yes, and I'll recuse myself from this, but I'm happy to answer questions. Yes, that's a fence line and a ridge line, and it's there to enforce an identifiable boundary.
Yep. And I've never been to the back side of this one, but I know there's a fence line on that side. But and then they have trade lands. They have a section of trade lands there, and there. Yeah, I've been to these with Gary. So is Jim, and we thought it was a fair trade. So you're a deer and elk CWMU, I believe. There's a good number of elk that use this area coming off the fields, and then a deer winter range. And this is in summer and transitional range for deer and elk as well. They take in, what is it? 1,566 public acres, and they trade 2,229 private acres. And there's no changes from the previous COR.
All right, any other questions for Daniel on this one?
This might be for Darren, but in the new rule, they're supposed to have all of the Fed, and this isn't anything against for the CWMU, but it's the example. They're supposed to have like all their paperwork from the federal agencies to be able to renew. And so that when that rolls around in August, if they don't have that, how do we go back and not that
I
Gary
think
wouldn't, but how would we go
Turner-
back and like take those out? That, I guess, are we putting the cart before the horse a little bit?
Well, I mean, we can always come back and revisit. I think, Mike, I'm trying to remember if we required them to have that paperwork or pointed out that was a necessity and they needed to make sure. I can't remember if we said we would verify that they had that paperwork done or not. What's your recollection?
It's actually, it's in code. It's been in code
Okay.
forever. So
Yeah,
it's not new, but it just requires, and the BLM is different than the Forest Service.
I
is
think what
different
we'll
than
just need to do, Mike, is just make sure that when they submit their renewals, that we check that box to make sure that they did it. And then, yeah, I guess if, these renewals will be coming through the racks in the fall. And so if it isn't done by the time of the renewal, we could point it out and say, hey, we're going to have to change this map, I think. And it obviously we probably wouldn't have time to come to the committee again, but we could certainly do that for the purposes of the rack, or the board at least.
Any discussion on this one?
I have a question for the operator.
Yes.
Have you posted the trade lands, Gary?
Yes, we have posted the trade lands. So
Good job.
I figured we all knew that.
Daniel,
answer.
have you verified that those have been posted?
I have not verified
come on
that,
up
no.
anytime.
All right, well, Gary, thank you for not disappointing everybody on the committee. With that, we'll look for a motion.
Make a motion to approve the North Peak CWMU as presented.
I'll second.
Motion by Greg, second by Mike. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? And just for the record, again, we had one abstention, which was Gary.
Covy, can I say something real quick about the licensing for the ground?
Sure.
So in the rural committee, it was a big issue, and the Forest Service was represented on the committee. And I think, if I remember right, coming out of that committee, in the new COR application, Mike, there was gonna be a box to check if you had your federal permits, if you're using federal ground. And I actually went through that process, and it's a 5-year permit. You can apply, and it's very easy to do. So we'll help anybody connect them to the Forest Service if they have if they need that, or the BLM. So it was very clear coming out of that meeting. So if the DWR can add a box on the COR application, then that would be great. So
Yeah, and that was
I'll
the intent.
see how hard or easy that is to do, but it might be worth putting in with the training materials as well when we post something online that people can go look at. So we can work with you on that, Gary.
well, I already have it. So, but I'll help you get it.
So Gary will
As
help
the
you,
CWMU president.
Gary will help you post your land, help you navigate any and all federal regulations. And we'll have him volunteered for something else by the end of the night, too.
Hey, if we can take pictures of a coyote and have geodata, we can take pictures of a corner and have it too.
All right, on to the next one. Thank you.
Okay, the next CWMU is the Park Valley Hereford CWMU. They take in 3,090 acres of public land. They trade 640 acres of private land, as well as additional buck permits. So it looks like on their COR, the first year they have 17 private permits and 5 public. And then the next 2 CORs, it's 18 private and 6 public. I bet we made them change because of that rule. So let's just, for simplicity's sake, they get 18 private tags a year and 6 public. Their trade lands is labeled right here. It's pretty good summer habitat for deer. There's no roads. Well, I don't think there's any roads in there. I think you can hike to it from here. But so their public land they take in is all down here. It's pretty much all winter. Well, there's deer that use this valley year round, and then they have a lot of deer move down in elevation. As far as I know, there's not really many roads to access. This parcel might be able to get access, and then I guess you can corner across to there, but there's no public roads that go up into any of that. If there is one, it would stop like right in here, I believe. So, and the operator said he would probably be online for this, so we might be able to ask him questions, maybe.
Let's see if there are any questions. First of all, any questions on this one?
So Daniel, they're giving 4 extra deer permits per year.
Yes, and the 640 acre trade, yes. Based on our permit calculator, it says they should be giving about, what did it say, like 14% more permits, 15% more permits. So I guess that math equals out. We just put in our calculator.
Mike, I think the calculation's roughly 3 and then 4 and 4. 3 1 year, 4 and then 4.
Okay. He might not be here, but I can try to answer any questions if you have any.
Daniel, have you been to these trade lands? Or no, we're not trading, right?
Yeah, if there is trade lands.
Yes, that's right.
One,
That's right.
one
yes.
section plus additional permits.
I believe I have. Yes. Because that's Clear Creek. Yeah, I've hiked in there, yes. They're deer and bull elk habitat. It's elk habitat, but I've only ever seen bulls in there. So
Any discussion on this one? Park Valley is.
Can I have one question, Covey? Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just curious, it's a lot of public hunters. How's the hunter satisfaction index? Do you know?
I don't know how to quickly look that up either. Okay, Darren will look it up. As far as CWMUs go, this is one that kind of maxes out their permits. A lot of box elder CWMUs kind of just take 10. These guys try to get more hunters out there, so their hunter density isn't higher than the public land around it.
Satisfaction last year for buck deer was 3.8.
And that includes private.
Yeah, that's everything all together, Mike. Yeah.
So you're in discussion, Covey, say?
Yeah, so the habitat they're trading for is deer and elk. Park Valley CWMU is it pronghorn?
It's just deer, I think.
Just deer?
Just deer. We have a Park Valley one that's completely separate, this
Okay.
pronghorn, so that's why we're getting that, but these are just deer.
Oh, Park Valley.
Yeah.
Okay, just deer. Okay. Any more discussion on this one, or are we looking for a motion?
This one's been a CWMU for a long time. And I know that this situation will cause a lot of heartburn as it goes through the public process, because now it is accessible public lands with corner to corner. I do think that them giving that many more tags every year helps alleviate some of that. This one just will be a hard one when it goes through the public process, I think, from what I've seen.
Hey, on that corner to corner, the 10th district ruled that it was the Wyoming case, correct? Are we part of that? And we're in that district. Has the state talked about this, and what are we going to require? People going to have to carry a ladder in? What are we, you know what I mean?
This is a really big discussion that I don't know that I'm ready to have here tonight, but
Okay.
the state, there's no law surrounding that case. There's the case, right, and the ruling, but the state hasn't taken action, and it's probably just a bigger discussion than what we have for here tonight.
We're not going to solve that on the CWMU committee.
I mean, we're ambitious, but
I was just curious.
I'm sorry.
I have a clarifying point. I
Yes.
just looked up the public roads. There's a public road to get to this section. There's not one to get to there. So, yeah, that might change unless you want to do that. It's the only way to legally get to that one.
I mean, I think it's a fair point. Anytime, I mentioned this at the beginning, anytime we're talking about accessible, inaccessible, boundary defining, whatever the public land is inside of CWMU, is it the best use? And we're only talking about hunting, right? Public land still public land, private land still private land, but is the best use to trade some permits. So one of the things that I think about on this one is when we go to 6 permits, we have a lot of permits at that point that are working with our bonus point system instead of just one random permit. So I see benefit in that in and of itself, you know, and an opportunity to hunt quality deer in an area. And an area where I look at it around, there's still a lot of private ground surrounding this. So I see how the division got to the recommendation of saying this one makes sense. Does it always make sense? No. Should we be critical? Sure, that's our job. And having 6 public permits on this CWMU every year with an average satisfaction of 3.8 feels pretty darn good. I'm not trying to sway the committee, by the way.
May I, Covy? I agree with everything you said. I've been thinking about the corner crossing case while we've been talking about this one, Mike, and thanks for bringing it up. But it does make me feel a lot better with the fact that they're adding a bunch of permits to that. It almost makes it kind of like a limited entry unit, and we're keeping the satisfaction high. And so probably something we should consider as we go forward on some of these other ones. So, you know, perhaps more permits or something like that. But I certainly, that certainly makes it a lot more tolerable.
I move that we pass as presented.
I'll second.
Motion by Mike and second by Greg. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, the next one on your list is Prohibition Springs, which we just talked about. You actually looked at this last year and approved it, so it's up to the committee. We could look at it, but since you just did it, we could skip it if everybody's okay with that and move on to the next one.
Why is Prohibition Springs up again?
They're renewing. So last year it was a change. This
Okay.
year they got to renew. And so again, it's the same map, nothing's changed. And they exchanged quite a bit of walk-in access land for including the public land. But it's up to the committee.
I think we'd maintain the same recommendation, but that's up to the advisory committee.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if it's required in code that, or rule that we review it because it's coming up, we should probably vote on it.
Yeah, I think that's
It-
fine.
it
Do you
doesn't hurt
want
to
to look
review
at the
it.
map just to refresh your memories? We can certainly bring that up. Doesn't show the trade lands.
I think we can all recall what it was.
Yeah, that's good because I don't think I have the right map.
So I'd move that we approve Prohibition Springs as currently presented.
I'll second.
Mike, can I just clarify that motion? Move to approve Prohibition Springs as approved the
Yes.
previous year?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you for that clarification.
Okay. And then a second by Tim.
I'll second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that was everybody, so it's unanimous.
Okay, moving on, Raft River.
The Raft River CWMU doesn't look to have any changes from the previous COR. Yeah, there were changes last COR, but the last one to this one, there are no changes. So this CWMU takes in 12,040 acres of, let me double check on that, sorry.
Is that 12,000 or 1,200?
Sorry, neither. It used to be 1,200. Now it's 930 public acres. And they don't have any trade lands. They give 16% more permits. So they take 10 permits a year. The first year, it's 7 and 3, and then the next 2 years it's 8 and 2. Yeah, there again, it's not. We've looked at this section before. There's no public access to this section. This corner of it is in Indian Creek, and then there's also no public access besides corner crossing into this one. They take half of it, and the other half is in the Park Valley Hereford CWMU.
Any questions for Daniel on this one from the committee?
Yeah, Daniel, help me understand this.
Yeah.
So the one we just looked at in Park Valley, they have 12,000 public acre or private acres, 2,000 public acres. They're trading us 640 more prime trade lands. They're giving 4 extra deer permits a year, 3 1 year, but over the course of their, they're giving out 11 more permits. And on this one, they're giving out 1 more permit for just a few hundred acres less, but a lot less private acres. How does that? The private to public ratio is higher. They're not doing trade lands, and they're only giving 1 extra tag a year.
Yeah. Do you want to describe
Best
that?
guess, Mike, is this is probably an old CWMU that's probably been, I don't know, has it been this way for a long time, Daniel?
No, they used to have more public and more private. And then it just got pared down. So, I mean, I think a lot of the same landowners are in this. They split, it's the Park Valley Hereford Cattle Association or something like that. So they just split a lot of these parcels. This CWMU used to grab a lot more than a few years ago. They cut it back to expand this one for whatever reason. Yeah, we can look at our permit calculator and see if we made a mistake on that one, because we just plugged this stuff into our permit calculator with the public land, private land, and see what it spits out. We could have put something in wrong last time, so yeah, we'll definitely double check on that to make sure it's fair.
Yeah, because I feel like without the public land, this one wouldn't even be a CWMU most likely. I mean, it's right on the edge with 5,300 private acres, and that little section, that portion down there is probably close to 350-ish acres. So without that public land, they might not even qualify and to just get the 1 tag back.
Without this section, so right now they're 5,000. Without this section, they would be more than 4,000. So they could still be a CWMU if they gave an extra buck tag.
Oh, with the new
rule.
With the new rule.
So yeah, they would still be a CWMU and they would still be giving an extra tag.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I agree with you. The math doesn't seem right compared with the other one. So we'll definitely make sure we didn't screw anything up on our end for sure. But
Darren, is the operator here?
no.
I don't think so.
Do we have anybody online?
Who's the operator? Yes. But
Raft River. I believe that's just Justin? No. I think it's Justin. One second.
No, it's not.
Yeah, our operator is Justin Higley. Doesn't sound like he's online.
So we'll, as part of the renewal process, we'll look at those permits again, but maybe as part of your recommendation, make sure that we double check the math on that. But
Jim just
I don't
double checked
know.
the math and it checks out. So it's just a percentage of.
Yeah, it seems to me like it would be close because over the 3-year period, instead of 3 permits, they're giving 7. And so as small as that property is, I'm not surprised that the math worked out. Thank you, Jim. I see what you're saying.
So yeah, how that works is roughly 16% of the CWMU is public land. So they give 16% more permits.
Okay, and so the reason why the disparity is because the Park Valley Hereford unit is asking for more permits.
Yes, asking for more permits. And let me look at Park Valley really quick.
So theoretically, that Raft River CWMU could ask for even a lot less permits and not having to give out anything. It would come out as like 1 permit every 3 years. So I think there might be a flaw in my opinion, in the calculation.
Well, isn't generally 10 permits the minimum, so they couldn't ask for less, could they?
No, they
It's-
can ask for as many as they want.
It's not necessarily the minimum. The first permit always goes to the public. So to keep a 90-10 split, most of them take 10 permits. So honestly, a lot of them don't use all 9, but they could if they wanted to. They could also take less. They still have to have at least 1 public permit.
But one thing with that too is when it's with elk and they have like 4 permits, then the first one goes to the public and then those other 3 go to private, but they, instead of choosing the 90-10 permit split, they choose a 75-25, which gives them all of the cow tags. So those guys, they don't get more permits. They don't qualify for more permits for bulls, but they can choose that different ratio, which then backdoors them into all the cow permits. So anyway, that was just one question I had. I didn't understand why why these guys down here had to take 6 public hunters a year, and then those guys only had to take 2.
Yeah, it's a percentage thing. So the Park Valley Hereford, they take in 3,090 acres. They trade 640, so we just subtract 640 and then do the percentage based on that. So that's how that's done. But
Gotcha, I understand. Thank you.
yeah.
Thanks for.
Mike, what do you think about a motion to have them maintain that minimum 10 permit number so we can maintain the 7 permits for the public over the COR in the motion?
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, I mean, I think that would be beneficial to the public for sure, if it's going to stay as a CWMU.
The last 4 cycles that I could see on my website, they've always taken 10. So
All right, so we've had a lot of discussion, a lot of questions. Can we get that in the form of a motion?
I'll make a motion on this one, that we approve the Raft River CWMU, with the only exception being to have the operator maintain a 10 permit total number so we can maintain 7 permits for the public, thereby keeping with their appropriate percentage of additional public permits to compensate for the public land in the CWMU.
I know I should summarize that. Do we have a second? Are you open to that amendment?
Absolutely amend as stated, minimum of 10 permits.
Okay. With the amendment now, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion by Greg, second by Gary. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And that was everyone.
All right,
So,
thanks,
no,
Daniel.
thank you.
Obviously, Daniel has a lot of CWMUs. This is the big year. But moving on to Sam. So this is a little bit of a change from what we sent out, and Sam can kind of walk you through it. But just in the last week, the CWMU's made a new proposal on the boundary. So this will be a little different than what you've seen before.
Yeah, so I'll walk you through this. Is that working now? There we go. So this is Green Canyon. This is a mule deer only CWMU. In years past, they've had this section of Forest Service included into the CWMU. And for that, they've given one additional deer buck tag along with these trade lands up here in orange. And then this one section that is completely landlocked, not accessible to the public. So coming up on the renewal, they want to put this back into the public. It will no longer be inside the CWMU. And then they will still offer these trade lands for the exchange of this one section of forest that is completely landlocked and not accessible to the public. In exchange for giving this back to the public, they will no longer give that additional buck deer tag. So it'll be 140 acres of these trade lands in exchange for this one section of Forest Service is about 40 acres. Anybody have any questions on that?
You can't use the word section in the same sentence and then say 40 acres.
Sorry.
The surveyors on the committee get confused.
Sam, have they not been hunting that 40? Is that what you're saying?
Been hunting this piece?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be still included.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a landlocked. There's no public access to that piece.
Yeah, so I think what you're saying is they excluded that, that's 120 acres.
Yeah.
They used to give the extra permit for.
Yep.
They excluded that and said, we're still going to take this one that's completely landlocked as part of the CWMU, but instead of giving a buck tag, we'll just use these trade lands to offset this landlocked 40.
Just use the 140 acres of trade lands to offset that 40 acre piece there.
All right, any questions on this one?
Covy, I've got a quick one. Just with the change in the boundary, is the operator aware he's going to have to go in there and make some changes to the posting? And they're on top of that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Covy, can we ask Sam if he's in favor of this? Is he coming in with
Absolutely.
you recommending the change?
Yeah, I'm in favor.
Looking at the trade land, it appears to be good habitat. What is it like? What is the trade land like?
Yeah, it's good habitat. It's lower stuff in Blacksmith Fork, so we do get deer in those sections. It also provides some decent access to some of the other forest land and state land too.
All right, bring this one to committee discussion.
Well, I'm kind of bummed because I was like, this was the one that I hated, and then you changed it, so now I like it. So well done, and welcome to presenting before us. So.
Thank you.
Anything else, or are we ready for a motion on this one?
I'll move that we accept as presented.
Motion by Mike,
I'll second.
second by Tim. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's everyone, so nobody's opposed. All right, thank you. Good job, Sam.
Thanks.
Okay.
I believe the next one is South Canyon.
Maybe.
And this one has 480 acres of Forest Service property in it that is landlocked and not accessible to the public. And in exchange for that, they give an additional bull and buck deer, bull tag and buck deer tag. And this one hasn't changed. It's the same as last time. Been like this for a while, so.
And is that per cycle? Like per 3 years, they give one per 3 years?
The first year, they give an additional bull tag and buck tag.
Okay.
Just on the first year.
So it looks like it's 120 acres, is that what it is?
These two pieces come out to about 480 acres.
Any other questions on this one?
Is the landowner here?
One of the landowners is here, yep. What's that?
Is he feeling generous tonight?
We have a,
It's one additional for the, well, you have a
We'll
total
take
of
two.
Am I saying that wrong?
let the record show we're trying to verify the permit splits.
Yeah, just one additional bull tag, one additional buck tag in the first year.
So was he willing to do two additional
All right, any other questions for this one, for either the biologist or we have the landowner here as well. Hate to have him drive all the way and not have a question for him. Seeing none. Discussion on this one?
I do have one quick question. The Forest Service right on that property boundary.
Right here?
Yeah, that's private on this side.
Yes.
And so, though the private on this side, is that like one landowner? Is that many landowners that abut that then could use that if that makes sense?
Yeah, so there is one landowner right here.
Mm-hmm.
And then actually through here, there's a little section that separates right there.
Oh,
So that, it doesn't show it on the map, but there is a little section of private that separates that Forest Service that landlocks up.
excellent. Thank you.
There's no more discussion. We'll look for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the South Canyon CWMU as proposed by the division.
Motion by Tim,
Second.
second by Greg. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thanks, everybody. Motion passes.
All right, next up will be Deseret, and Shayla will do this one. Yeah, just be good.
Is that a yes?
Yes. Tell them
Okay.
who you are, Shayla.
I'm Jayla Walden. I'm the district biologist for Morgan Southridge. So Deseret CWMU has 225,228 private acres, and they're wanting to incorporate 15,359 public acres. Some of those are accessible to the public and some of them are not. The reason to incorporate them is for a really clean and easy boundary because enforcement issues become very tedious in the checkerboarded area. To offset the compensation for having the public land in the CWMU, they include 6.4% extra public permits. I don't know what the permit recommendations will be just yet for this upcoming COR, but assuming that it's the same as this last season, that would equate to an extra 6 buck permits and 7 bull elk permits. And in all honesty, the quality of those hunts, being able to access high quality habitat throughout the rest of Deseret, offsets the loss of the public land in that lower elevation sagebrush flats. So, do you have questions?
Does that also go for antelope?
Yes, it should.
And then what permit split do they usually take? They don't take
The-
90-10, do they?
They do for bucks and bulls, and then the pronghorn is the 40-60.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Any other
Hey.
questions on this one?
Covy, I've heard, and I don't want to assume anything, but I've heard that Deseret has acquired that Scylla ground. Anyone else heard that?
The last I talked to them, it was still in the process. So that may have happened very recently, but that hasn't been finalized. We're just kind of getting ahead of the game here to make sure we have this approved if in fact it is public land. And then I guess it would be null and void if they did in fact acquire it before the COR needs to be approved.
So something, maybe we do a double motion that we do. How are we going to do that? Because I heard from Tom Land at our CWMU meeting that they have purchased all those Scylla pieces.
I don't think we need a double motion because they don't need a review of public land if they don't have any public land.
Would that change their split? I guess is the question I have.
We would just default back to, because at that point, then this motion is to change the split if they include that public land. But if they don't include it, we just go back to the calculator. Perfect.
Just curious.
Yeah. No, that's actually a really good point. And I had also heard that they were working on that. Any other questions on this or discussion?
I'd move that we approve as presented.
Motion by Mike,
I'll second that.
Clint, or who won? Gary? Clint, you won. Second by Clint. All right, and a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Sounds like everyone's in favor. Hearing none opposed, and we'll move on to the next one.
So the next on the list is Middle Ridge, but they are actually going to be pulling out of the program next year. So I would suggest in lieu of that, we look at a new CWMU. So Mike, you want to come up? This would be Round Valley CWMU in the southern region. So let me pull that up. You have not seen this map, so we'll have Mike kind of walk you through that. And Andy's here as well, the property.
I'm old school, so I've got.
There you go.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Monroe. No, you're good. So, as part of the public part of this, we'll post this online, and it's just a packet with a map from the applicant. Mike, with that, you want to give us an introduction?
You bet. So I'm Mike Wardle. I'm a wildlife biologist down in Fillmore. Just to orient yourself with the map, that green line in the middle is I-15, and that's the town of Scipio. It's just north of Fillmore. So this is going to be on the Oak Creek side of I-15. This red outline is the boundary of the CWMU. And those blue outlines, this also in your packet, is the BLM parcels that are within the CWMU. And then the white outline parcels are the trade lands that would be offered up.
So this is that. The one they have in the paper.
Oh.
This is that first.
Oh, okay.
Just because this is being recorded, we got to make sure that we talk into the mic or else I get in trouble.
Yeah. Here, Andy.
Yeah, so this map that's up there is actually one that we were looking at, but then when we were trying to figure out where where all the fences run and the boundaries, and in order to try and square it up and make it more enforceable, we came up with the one that's in your packet. And those acreages that you have in your packet are all correct. But the red boundary is actually, it takes in the trade lands that you'll see, some of the trade lands that you'll see. So this far northeast corner you'll see in your packet is actually going to be trade lands. But the others I think are pretty correct. This parcel right here, this actually is a little section of private. That line would come straight across right there, and that one would go straight across with the fences that are existing.
So we knew this was going to come as a new application in this fall, so we thought we'd try and get it in front of you now to talk about including those public lands. My opinion as a biologist is that they're comparable. We have, I don't know, 50 to 80 pronghorn that kind of live in this valley and go up back and forth their numbers have been rising over the last 5 to 6 years, and those BLM versus private parcels are pretty comparable. Yeah, pronghorn only.
Is this pronghorn only?
Yeah,
Mike?
yep.
All right. That was-
Any other questions for Mike? Or for the operator?
So I see a lot of the trade lands like parallels I-15.
Uh-huh. Yep.
It seems like it's not as conducive to use as the parcels within the CWMU, which, you know, you got that, there's the road that runs out of Scipio, that there's a couple public access that runs through some of those BLM pieces that are on there, that, so there is public access to the
On some of it, yes, there is.
Yeah.
There's roads that run through it. Yeah.
And is there any concern with like how much of it and how close it runs to I-15 there? Because you wouldn't want people shooting towards the freeway. And
That they hunt it right now as it is. People, yeah, they hunt antelope all out through those trade lands. That white strip right along the freeway. There's antelope in there, but we just tried to use the trade lands as the stuff that was on the outside edges to kind of just to square up the boundary.
Yeah, Mike, I'd add, I actually drew a pronghorn archery permit this year on the Fillmore, and down here, this piece of trade land here, I did see antelope going back and forth a fair amount that were coming down to these ag fields. And so I do think that they would be comparable.
Any other questions on this one? Mike, on this one, you know, a lot of these when we've gone through them in the past, they're not new. So we've gone through the rationale as to why and how it meets the rule and the criteria. What is the rationale for inclusion of public land on this one so that we understand?
So the rationale on this one is just to make a better boundary, a more enforceable boundary. Those BLM parcels that you see aren't fenced. And so it makes it an easier boundary because this, like there's an actual existing fence line here and here that the ranchers are already currently using. These BLM parcels aren't fenced. And so it was to try and make it a more enforceable boundary.
And Mike, so that's the Fillmore Oak Creek
Mhm.
limited entry unit?
Correct.
It's pretty hard to get a tag to do that anyway, so the pronghorn hunting is already limited quite a bit in that area.
A fair amount. Actually, most of the pronghorn hunting on the unit takes place further south,
Yeah.
down by Meadow and Kanosh. We have another CWMU down there as well. But we've increased tags actually a lot on that unit. When we recently, I guess it wasn't that recent, but years back, we changed the way that we manage our pronghorn tags, and we've increased quite a bit. We've still got a really good pronghorn population.
Mike, how many tags do you think you'd be recommending for this? Just curious.
Probably not that many. Like I said, it's not like there's a ton of antelope in that valley, but I mean, we're going to be under 10 is my guess. So you're looking at one public hunter and then whatever.
Well, I mean, just remembering that pronghorn's 60-40, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, we'd be under 10 for sure, but I haven't got that far on this one.
Question for the operator is, Andy, is that you? Are you going to be the operator of this?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have another CWMU? Are you connected to this land, or What's your history to this?
So we own the stuff. Well, I mean, I could show you. Is that what you mean? Where our ownership is?
Well,
our
no,
personal?
just if you currently operate another CWMU, or you're familiar with the program, those kind of things.
No, I don't. We're in the Oak Creek Deer Landowner Association, but as far as CWMU, no.
It's a good program. CWMU is a fun program. See a lot of operators that come back, and it's a different program than any other state operates, and it's the one program where it benefits landowners and they get to give back public tag. There's a lot of people that spend so much time with that public hunter out here and really enjoy it. Anyway, it'll be fun so. All right. Well, any more discussion on this one?
Yeah, Mike. So I'm trying to wrap my head around a little bit the permits, because when you say when 10's thrown out there, how many permits is in that whole limited entry unit?
I can get you that info here in a second. I don't have it off the top of my head.
Sorry for.
Nope, you're all right. Yeah, I honestly haven't even gone down that far yet. This is a fairly fresh idea, and we were mostly just wanting to see, should we try and include the public land or not? I can get you here in a second.
I guess one of my concerns is I'd hate to see the CWMU take up the allotment of tags for this herd that lives in this general area, because it is kind of more isolated from the rest of the unit. I feel like that anyway.
Yeah.
From what I'm familiar with.
So we're at 75 permits across the Fillmore Oak Creek South unit.
Okay.
Travis, do you remember off the top of your head how many we have on the Pavant CWMU? Yeah. 4, okay. So yeah, sorry, when I threw out the number of under 10, in my brain I was thinking of a 90-10 split and was like, looking for one public hunter, but it's going to be lower than that.
Any other questions?
It's the boundary between the I-15 and the white, and then that next red boundary, is that fence there? Along the BLM, you got the I-15 and then the long sliver of yellow or white, and then there's a little sliver of BLM between the white and the red line. Is that fenced?
I believe it is. Yeah. Yeah, I believe that is. I know it is here and here, but I'm not 100% on that right there. But yeah. So that looks small, but if I remember right, it's around 370 acres or 60, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a long running.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, it goes over like takes in.
Yep.
Into 3 sections.
All right. Well, if there's no more discussion on this one, I think we're looking for a motion.
For me, it's hard to vote on this just because it's like it's thrown on us without any real ability to do any research and really look into it. I'm not saying that it wouldn't be a feasible situation, but The way it sits now, I mean, those are long slivers of BLM, so they're, you know, be hard to catch antelope right on there to be able to legally shoot one. And at the same time, like I feel like I don't know that I've got enough information, in my opinion, for me to vote yes on it. So
I feel a little bit like you do, Mike, but maybe I see it a little bit differently. I've been trying to think of the huntability of this property, and it almost seems like as proposed is probably the best way to make it huntable, unless they just want to happily open their ground to folks that draw limited entry tags. But it would be difficult to hunt those long, narrow pieces, and this squares it up, and I mean, they're likely to end up with something like.
Mike, what's your opinion? You brought it here. How do you feel about it? You feel real good about it? You like it?
Honestly, I'm excited about it.
That matters.
This valley doesn't have a lot of water in it, and really that water is there because of these ag guys. And candidly, they haven't got much in the form of compensation from pronghorn. And the pronghorn are fairly new there. I mean, this is a population that's expanded. I mean, Andy, when do you think you first saw pronghorn in that valley? I mean,
we were seeing, you know, very few of them, you know, probably 15 years ago, but very few. But definitely in the last 7 or 8 years, it seems to be growing exponentially. They actually killed one just right. Well, I mean, I don't need to show you where it's at, but this year that was just about 2 inches shy of the state record on some of our property over there. And that's what's been happening. What Mike said, we haven't got any compensation off of the antelope, is we just let antelope hunters have just been hunting it, the public hunters, for the last several years. So anyway, that's kind of.
I think there's some happy middle ground here, though. I mean, as a committee, we've got, you know, when it outlines what our role is, I think it's inside of our role to say, hey, this one's new. We're okay to try it. Come back after the first 3 years and let us know how it went. And at that time, we can evaluate hunter satisfaction. We can evaluate success rates. We can evaluate all these things and talk and say, okay, is this something we want to continue, or did it not work? But it allows us the flexibility to do some of that, I think, as the advisory committee. I like that we have the advisory committee, because I think that, you know, if not, this kind of stuff gets lost. But I think in this committee, we can say, no, we want to hear back from you in 3 years. Let us know how it's going. If it's a good experience for the public, the landowners, the operator, and the division, then it's something we'd move forward with. And if it's not a good experience for any one of those, we'd say maybe we ought to take a look at this one a little harder and see if it's something we want to continue.
do they qualify for landowner permits?
For pronghorn?
Yes.
No, I don't think anybody did this year. They could have applied, but there was only one permit given for the whole unit. And in the Fillmore, there's actually a lot of applications for that.
But isn't there the program
Through-
where they
through the
could,
limited
where they could get a transferable permits?
It's still just limited to their family members. It's not a transferable permit. Is that accurate, Aaron?
So like on the Book Cliffs, where there's a landowner association, and I can go buy one, and I'm not a family member, can't they do that on this area also?
They could form a landowner association, yes. But there is a new program in place similar to our general landowner buck deer permits.
And I'm familiar with that. Then those are non-transferable. Well, there are some transferable ones
for elk,
but not for any other species.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. But for the limited entry landowner association, would they be able to qualify for that and go about it that way?
It could be potential on this unit. It would be really difficult because you're not dealing just with this strip of private land. You're also dealing with all of Delta, Fillmore, Meadow, Kanosh. There's a lot of private landowners there.
Yeah.
And honestly, Mike, like if the CWMU program works for the land,
then the public gets.
It's preferred.
Yeah,
I just think it's good to vet it and look at it from all directions.
Yeah,
sure,
sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's fair.
But they could potentially get one of those permits. This year it was drawn by a guy in Flowell. It's got a bunch of ground there.
I would just add, this is my first day on the committee, and one thing I'm learning real quick is you need to have an incredible amount of trust in the biologists and those that are presenting these, because we, just like Mike said, we're learning. And I was listening intently to what Mike Lauder asked you. I appreciate that. You obviously you think this will work. You've talked to Andy, vetted him, maybe is probably not the right word, but there's no red flags. So I'd be inclined to give it a try.
Let's look for that in the form of a motion that works for everyone.
I'll make the motion that we accept the boundaries as presented tonight with the caveat of a return visit in 3 years when they renew their COR.
Motion to accept with a return visit to report after the first COR. Any second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion by Mike, second by Tim. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? None? And one thing I would say is that this committee sometimes gets a bad rap. They're not bad people. So when we say come back and talk to us, it's because a lot of times we like to share success stories. This is a public meeting with the public. So it's not a bad thing to come back and chat with us. I think it keeps us both in a good place, and it lets us know if something's going to work. So with that, thank you for your time. And
Can I clarify?
Yeah.
Just like what you're saying. So we say come back, and we voted really quick. I was going to interject something that I would like to see happen. So I'm talking after the fact. I already voted for it, but I would like there to be some acknowledgement while you're here to understand that when you come back, if it's not working out great, it can go away. And when we say come back, that just means you have to come back. There's no teeth to that. And so I would have liked to have had some kind of an expression in that motion that would have said, if it doesn't work out, or if your public hunters are, if you're killing all every big buck with your private tags, and the public hunters are, mopping up the seconds, then it's probably not going to be as favorable of a position when you come back. But it's interesting.
that's a fair clarification, Mike. And most of the people up here aren't bad.
And I talk way too much, if you haven't noticed already.
You're good. Thank you.
All right, next up is Indian Head. This is in Brad Crompton's district, so we'll let him come up and walk you through this one.
The Indian Head CWMU is on the Wasatch unit. This is Highway 6 along the southwest border there. Basically what it is, it's a 23,000 acre CWMU with 1,130 acres of public land inside that are landlocked. They exchange 799 acres. It's this red crosshatch. This is along Highway 6. This is up right off the Avinaquin Ridge there, which leaves a deficit of 331 acres. So we have to adjust permits by 1.3%. This percentage changes virtually every year since the owner has purchased this property, just always petitioning for these state sections to come up for sale. In fact, some of these that show as state sections are now private, and more will be purchased this year as well. Obviously, the BLM stuff takes a bit longer. Yeah, any questions?
Brad, over on this, I guess your left-hand side, there's a piece of BLM that's in it and a piece of BLM that borders it that's out of it.
Yeah, this one's incorrect on the map. It's actually private land. Because is this the one you're talking about?
Just a little bit more further to your left. Yeah, right there. So there's a piece that's in it and a piece that's out of it. I want to know why.
This is actually all out. Does that make sense? Or am I
Yes,
putting it?
that's all out, but that section,
Right there.
Yeah, why is that one in
I believe that one is public, private land as well. That's just the base map is incorrect.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah. Otherwise, yeah, that's what we try to do is if someone can conceivably walk from here up to here, we can't include it. So. And people do.
So the 1.3%, Brad, just to clarify and questions, the 1.3% is all, there's a portion trade land and there's still a 1.3% deficit?
Correct. There's a 300-acre deficit, so we would adjust the permits by 1.3%.
And that's after the public lands that have been sold and are now private?
Correct. You know, that could change again this year. It's changed a little bit. That percentage has gone down, if that's what you're asking.
So what does 1.3% equate to in this situation?
So this renewal cycle, there'll be an extra, mainly because we had a change application last year and there's 14 bull tags, 14 and 2. There'll be an additional bull tag and an additional deer tag during this cycle, once every 3 years, basically. If my
Looking
math
at
is
my
right.
mapping, Mike, it looks like that BLM piece is private now that you were wondering about. It already shows that way.
And I think that one always has been, is just the base
Yeah.
map is incorrect. Yeah.
Finally got it fixed, yeah.
Pretty tough to buy BLM lands. It takes a while.
Yep.
Just equitable trade lands. This is obviously roadless, you know, kind of a walk-in sort of thing, but it accesses a lot of other lands. And this is great also just because it's along the road and accessible, so you can have the best of both worlds as far as trade lands. Probably both better for deer than elk, but good habitat.
So the only thing that's changed on this one since last time is that more of the SITLA or public land inside has been.
Correct. We did have a change in permit numbers with the change application last year, and he'll renew obviously this summer as well.
Okay.
And I don't know of any SITLA parcels that are up for sale, but I'm not privy to that really. So.
Any discussion, any more questions or discussion on this one? If not, look for a motion.
Motion to approve Indian Head CWMU as presented.
Motion by Greg to approve as presented.
I'll second that.
Second by Clint. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
All right, next up is Roan Cliffs. We're out as well.
This is totally the big renewal year.
What?
This has to be the big renewal year.
It is.
It
Yeah.
is.
Sorry, I probably should have given it. Do you want to take a break, Covy? We could.
How many more do we have?
We're about 3/4 of the way through. So.
Yep, we're going to take a 10-minute break.
Okay.
1.
All right, everyone, welcome back. We'll continue on with this portion of the meeting, which is evaluating CWMUs with public land and making recommendations for this year's rack and board process when they hit renewals. So, all right, with that, I think, Brad, you're back up again. Mr. Crompton?
The next one up is the Roan Cliffs CWMU. It's on the 9 Mile unit in Carbon County. Color scheme seems a bit weird here. The red is the CWMU boundary, which includes 480 acres of BLM acres inside of the CWMU. And the red with crosshatch are the exchange acres. The CWMU is allowed public access on. In visiting with the operator this week, I believe they'll renew this year, and they're going to elect to remove those public lands from inside the CWMU with the new renewal. That said, it'd be great to, in case he changes his mind, great to kind of go through with it. This is how it's been for the last several decades as far as these exchange acres. They're giving up more than they're taking in at 680 acres outside and 480 inside. Any questions there?
Yeah, I think that I need to clarify that for my own brain. So in talking with the operator, you think that they're going to elect to exclude any public land inside the CWMU?
Yeah, they're just going to carve these out. These here and this piece here as well. It looks like.
Okay. And just because they haven't given an application yet, you're saying if they proceed with them in the CWMU, this is what it would look like.
Yeah, that's what it's been for the past 20 years, I suppose. So yeah, it'd be good to go forward with this so he still has that option. That makes sense.
Okay. Any other questions on this one for Brad?
Did he give a reason for why he was considering doing that?
I think guiding license stuff, just didn't want to get a license to guide on public lands. That's what he mentioned. So,
Is he taking back the traded stuff?
sorry, I didn't hear you.
Because isn't that the trade lands, those little other red squares?
Correct. Yeah,
outside?
up here.
Yeah.
Would he take those out?
Yeah, is he taking that all out?
I bet he won't. I don't know. I haven't asked him whether he'll begin to post that. That is roadless. So a bit difficult for people to get to, but it's used heavily. It's one of the few areas on the 9 Mile unit where there's public access from a road, the 9 Mile Canyon Road up north of that.
And this could be out of our wheelhouse. But if he does pull the public land out, and maybe this would be a good way for Gary to talk to somebody about how it works, so he can see it might not be as burdensome as he feels it would be, as the president of the CWMU Association.
I thought that earlier too when you mentioned that. So,
because I can see how it is advantageous for the public to have that long strip as public accessible that allows use on both sides. And if he doesn't do that, if he doesn't want to keep it in his CWMU, does the division, would they be opposed to talking to him about, doing a, walk-in access area or something like that?
yeah, we've been working on that whole canyon with the other landowners as well. It's just kind of a public land area that people can, so it's roadless, but yeah, we'd be open to that.
Any more discussion on this one?
I'd move to pass as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mike, second by Greg. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Okay, next is Scofield Canyons. That's still you, Brad, right?
This one's fairly straightforward. There's a isolated 40-acre parcel inside of a 12,000-acre CWMU. that we're electing to keep in. Yeah, it's 0.3% of the total CWMU acreage, so just a landlocked 40.
Any questions on this one? No questions, any comments? Okay, that will look for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Scofield Canyons CWMU as proposed.
I'll second.
Motion by Tim, second by Mike. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, next is Mount Carmel. Carmel. And this one, is this one Cody's? Southern region? Kyle, okay. I think Kyle was going to be online. Let's look.
It's actually Cody's. It used to be Jason's, now it's Cody's. Yeah,
All right.
I'm here.
Somebody's online because I might have not been able to do this. So yeah, go ahead.
Okay, this is the Mount Carmel CWMU on the Zion unit. It is a mule deer only CWMU. It's been around for a long time. It's up for renewal. There are no changes. It is 14,891 acres of private and landlocked 460 acres of BLM. Jason Sorensen is online here too. He's the operator. And so if you have any questions.
What percentage is that, Cody?
Of
Never mind. And do they make up that difference in public permits? Is that how it's done?
Correct. Yeah, so a couple years ago, it was 2 public and 18 private, and then they changed it to 3 public and 17 private.
And is that yearly or is that a one-time during the core?
Jason, do you know that?
3 years. It's been the same since we did this 3 years ago.
Any other questions or comments on this one? Seeing none, we'll look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the Mount Carmel CWMU as presented.
Motion made by Greg,
I'll second.
second by Clint. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right. Cody, thank you. Cody's our newest biologist. We just hired Cody in the southern region. He's working on the Pine Valley, the Zion, Southwest Desert. So welcome, Cody. You got off pretty easy tonight, buddy.
Thank
You did a great job, Cody.
You did a great job.
All right, next up is Alton. This is Kyle, right?
Yep, it's me. Sorry I couldn't be there in person tonight. So the Alton is right at 34,000 acres. Last renewal, you guys probably don't remember, but we took almost 2,000 acres of public land out. And it's got 1,800 acres left in it that we left in for definable boundary. And the trade-off is we give 1 extra permit. So they're at 20 trophy buck permits, and we give 3 public and 17 to the CWMU.
Do you have any questions for Kyle on this one?
And is that every year, Kyle?
Yep, every year.
So we have Wade's online too. So if you have any questions for either Wade or Kyle.
How many total management tags and cactus bucks tags do they receive?
So it's 5 and 5. So four CWMU, 1 public on both cactus and management.
Any discussion on this one? No? All right, looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve as recommended.
Motion by Gary,
Second.
second by Greg. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right. Hey, thanks for logging on, both of you.
Thanks.
All right, next up is Bar J. Vance made the ride, and I feel real bad. I should have had the southern region and southeastern region folks go first, but they're troopers. Thanks, Vance. Either one.
Okay, this is the Bar J Ranch, been part of the CWMU program for about 30 years. Really good CWMU. So the reason we include this public land is for a definable boundary. There's this range fence that cuts straight across here. Straight across here and then here. It's been there, been posted, been part of the CWMU forever. So they like to include those, and then these couple sections in here. They've offered for trade lands, this little part up here and these sections right here. Gooseberry Creek runs right along here, as does the Gooseberry Road. So this provides really good road access for public hunters, as well as a perennial stream that attracts deer and elk to water to give them opportunity to hunt. So no real changes here. I believe part of the road is fenced, but I don't believe, I know some have asked this question before, I don't think they've posted these lands open, but we can make sure they do that for next year. And there's a few extra trade lands. 370 acres of trade lands, 330 acres of included public.
Is this a new operator?
Yes, operator purchased this, I believe, 3 years ago from the original owners that had it for generations.
Any other discussion or questions on this one?
Is that little piece of trade land up in the top, is that just for access? Is that,
Yeah,
okay.
It's a fence line. So this fence line is kind of weird. It cuts this whole corner and it cuts up in here too.
Okay.
Who's the operator on this now?
Coates is the owner and the operator is Kim Rolfe.
Okay, nothing else, we'll look for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Bar J Ranch CWMU as presented.
Motion by Tim,
Second.
second by Greg. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thanks, Vance.
Yep, got two more, but they're pretty easy.
The Oak Ranch is next.
Oak Ranch is a deer-only CWMU. Been there just like the others since Sevier County on the Manti unit. Been there for over 20 years anyway. All they have is this 120 or so acres of completely enclosed BLM within the boundaries. They've always included that in the CWMU. We've never done any kind of mitigation for that. It's just kind of always been there. There's nothing special about it, but it's, again, the public can't access it. So any questions on that?
Yeah, in the notes that were sent, it says 2%. Oh,
Yeah.
extra- So what does
Just-
that mean?
So they get about, what are they giving out? 10 to 15 deer tags, I think, that they give out total. And so we haven't made any kind of mitigation in permits or anything for including that. If we were to take the BLM out of the CWMU, and we could do that, that would drop them below the 5,000 minimum, not by a lot, by like, I think like 80 acres or something like that. So we've always kind of kept it in there to avoid any acreage problems.
I think with the new rule, they don't, they only have to be 90% of that.
Okay, so they would be okay with that. So, yeah. And I think, you know, we could do that. We could add a tag if the committee wanted us to do that. So.
The only thing for me is like in other CWMU cases, they would have to give up like one tag over the course of their core, or like
Mhm.
some have been giving up a tag every year.
Right.
And so like when we saw South Canyon, they're giving up a deer tag and a bull tag for 400 acres on a 20,000 acre ranch. And so it seems appropriate that there would be one additional deer tag over the core
For the 3-year cycle.
Yeah, not one every
Okay.
year, but at least one
Mhm.
over the 3-year cycle is what seems appropriate to me. But
Our owner operator is our counter commissioner, Scott Johnson. I'm sure he would be very open to doing that. It wouldn't be a big deal to their operation. So if that's what we wanted to recommend, I'm sure we can make that a part of our next renewal.
I understand there's two arguments here. One is
Mhm.
it's always been this way. The other one is
Right.
we've set a different standard
Right.
with folks, and I just want to make sure everybody feels like we're treating them fairly.
Mhm.
And so it comes down to, I guess when I look at this and evaluate this, is it fair to have no mitigation?
Right.
And the answer is it's probably not.
Probably not. And
It's not a huge deal, but something is probably more appropriate than nothing.
So would the committee be good giving them one or the other option, then either take the BLM out or adding one permit over the course of the 3-year COR?
I think we could probably, after some, do we have any more discussion on this first? And then if we don't, that we would be looking for a motion.
yeah, I mean, I personally would like to, see them compensate the public in some way, and whatever recommendation we make, if he disagrees with that, then he can show up and
Sure.
plead his case in that. So, if you're ready for a motion, I'd make one. I recommend approving the Oak Ranch CWMU as presented, with the addition of asking for one additional public tag over the course of the 3-year core to mitigate the use of public lands.
Motion by Mike,
Second.
second by Greg. And just to summarize the motion, it's one additional deer permit over the certificate of registration, which is a 3-year period.
Correct.
One additional public deer permit. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect, thank you.
Okay, the last one I have is the Old Woman Plateau. We discussed this extensively 3 years ago. And what they've offered, they have a pretty good chunk, about 1,400 acres of public Forest Service land included. Again, this has been here about 30 years, since 1995. That public section is pretty critical in making the CWMU work for both the public hunters and the private hunters. So what we did last time and propose this upcoming time is to have about 289 acres of trade lands here, and which leaves still a deficit. And so what we did last time and what I expect they'll do this time is add an additional bull elk permit. and add an extra buck deer permit. It's a really good CWMU, especially for our elk, with high satisfaction rates. And also there is some fencing issues on this Forest Service also. There's existing fence lines on about 2/3 of that forest that's included in the CWMU. So.
Vance, is that one extra bull tag and one extra buck tag each year?
Every year, correct. Yep, every year.
Questions or discussion on this one? I have a question. What was the satisfaction over the last 3 years COR since we made that?
So I can't quote you the numbers, but for elk, it's been very high. They've even guided some hunters for free on there. Yeah, really good elk hunting. Our deer hunting is not very good, not because of any fault of the CWMU. It's just the South Manti. There's just not a lot of deer on there. They do great habitat work. We've done thousands of acres of habitat work on their property, and they don't graze it too hard. So they really do a good job of management.
All right, with that, if there's no more discussion or any more questions, we'll look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the Old Woman Plateau CWMU as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, I'm going to ask for a clarification on the motion. Is as presented with the additional buck and bull permit annually for the public? Yeah, they're already doing it.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks, Covy.
Motion by Greg, second by Tim. Those in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Any opposed? Nope. Perfect. Thanks.
All right, that is all of our trade lands maps. Thank you very much. It is the big year, so I appreciate everybody's patience working through that. We have a couple things left on the agenda. If it's okay with the committee, I'd suggest that we jump to variances and let our biologists come up and talk about those, and then we could handle rule changes at the end, if that's okay.
Is the committee okay with that adjustment if we move to item 5 and then?
Okay.
Okay.
Great. All right. Well, we'll start with Ensign then. Jim is going to explain that variance, and this is an action item.
Okay, Jim Christensen, Wildlife Manager for the Northern Region, filling in for Haley Wayment, who's our district biologist up there. So the changes, the requested variance would be to move the bull elk hunt later into November. So it would go until November 30th rather than the 20th. Part of this is increase the number of bull elk permits on there, be 2 for the private, 2 for the public. This will help both the public and the private hunters in there. The elk population is still over objective. The elk are there, and we agree with this variance request. If the elk are there, we might as well take advantage of them, especially if we're over objective looking to continue harvest.
Looks like we have Jim and the operator here as well. So if we have any questions.
So, yeah. So Jim, you said that would be 2 public and 2 private hunters that would be able to do that, or did I?
Yeah. So added 4 extra bull elk permits, and they changed their splits around. So the splits are changing from the 85-15 to 80-20. And so then on the back end, that would also adjust the antlerless from 25-75 to 40-60. So that will help accommodate the extra bull tags in there. So.
Yeah, and so those extra bull tags, they're going to be additive to what's been in the past.
Yeah.
Okay. And then those 4, they can. Are you the way it's presented? I'm a little confused. Will they only be able to hunt that extended period of time, or that will be?
That will be up to the operator at that point. They can hunt from September 1st through November 30th.
And is the 30th as long as they can go within the rule? Is that why we're asking for the 30th?
No, no.
Yes, sir. No, Mike, this is similar to some of the ones we looked at last year. There really isn't anything in rule.
Yeah.
And our attorneys felt like, yeah, we can authorize these later hunts, so.
So a question for the operator is, you might need a microphone. Is the 30th late enough, or would you rather have it even a little bit later? Like to the 15th of December or something like that? Like the whole point of it is to kill elk.
Correct. And so we would have actually enjoyed it later. We didn't know if we could or shouldn't push the limit that far. And so we tried to do that, of which maybe one neighbor has done. We are in a little bit of a weird drainage there where we get that corner involved where we have all our Wyoming parcel, as well as those bulls that come from the high Uintas. They stop in Wyoming and so the bulls come in first, but we will a multiple of 4 in our elk for a 4 or 5 month window. And so when those big herds show, if they show, and we do have weather on those years that we used to have, you know, this would help us. If we could extend further, it would for sure help us. So, you know, but we felt like that we could do this, and then the cows come in later, and we do quite a large operation on the cows, and we move right into the antlerness hunting, you know, in the month of December.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So if are we to discussion, or we want to?
We are probably to discussion, but we can also ask any further clarifying questions.
I sat on the CWMU committee, and I was like a big proponent to push those elk hunts as far as we can up there to help you guys, to help them kill elk. And so if it was me, I would be fine pushing it to, you know, the end of the year. I don't think it matters if the goal is to kill elk. You know, now if we're just going to take those 4 tags and hunt them in the rut in September, you know, I mean, we're not going to tie hands on when we're going to hunt those elk, but the goal of it is to shoot elk that are coming in later, I imagine. So,
is there any, Jim, how does the region feel about that?
Just as long as it doesn't get in the way of the antlerless hunts, that would come in the December, January timeframe. But yeah, I mean, if the elk are there, by all means, go after them. So.
Well, and I'd imagine, like, just from what I've seen, is Enzyme's been really good on trying to take more cow tags than anybody else up there. And I would imagine that now they would have more private cow tags because of the split change. So they'd be more efficient in killing those cows too. You know, so I agree with you, you know, wouldn't want to mess up anything, but I don't see.
Travis, what about, I mean, if I know where Mike's going, I mean, you throw us out a number. I mean, December 10th?
The 10th would be awesome, because that would leave me the next period of time that I could be successful. And that's the window anyway that I start, honestly, from, you know, the month of January is when we really get working on those migratory herds. And if you understand what happens in that area, that's when we start plowing roads and get after those herds. So the 10th would for sure give us the opportunity to hit those herds when they were coming. And it also aligns well with the dates in Wyoming. Our Wyoming dates and our Utah dates do not align well to keep those elk, you know, doing their thing. So the December 1 is the Wyoming bull hunt for the month of December. And so a lot of time those elk feel 100% comfortable not doing a dang thing and just kind of stopping right there on our Wyoming place. And so these later dates, and with a little bit of pressure on weather, it would change the outlook of the herd that we deal with. It's not just our resident herd. And I think it fills the goals of the division to have us working, and we would allow all public hunters that later date.
With that, I think there's any further discussion or looking for a motion?
You do it or you want to?
So do you want the 10th or the 15th?
10th is just fine, Mike.
Okay. Make a motion that we accept the variance request and move the date back until the 10th of December.
I'll second.
Motion by Mike, second by, was that you, Greg?
Mike.
Oh, second by Mike. Okay. I missed it. With that, we'll take a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
All right, moving on, Pole Canyon. Alicia. Alicia's another one of our new biologists, so she'll do her best, and I'll try and help if I need to.
Hi, so I'm Alicia. I'm the new biologist over the Wasatch West, so it's a pleasure to meet all of you. So Little Pole Canyon has requested a bull elk variance to extend to November 15th. And the reason for that is on the CWMU, they don't come down till pretty late in October. So they have a really short window to harvest. So we're hoping that with this extension, it can increase the opportunity for both the public and the private hunter, and as well as increase their overall satisfaction, make it a little bit more manageable for our operator. They were over objective, so we're supportive of this. The elk are there. We want to utilize the opportunity for our hunters. So any questions?
Is the operator here? Sorry.
I'll ask Mike's question real quick. Is that late enough?
Our operator did said he was going to try and jump on. Jim, are you?
I'm on.
Okay. They want to know if November 15th is late enough for you.
From what I've seen these last few years, I think yes. Because the cows actually showed up later than the bulls this year, and we got plenty of time to hunt the cows. So I think the 15 will be fine.
Where is Pole Canyon?
It's right above Heber, just above Red Ledges.
So are these elk Wasatch elk?
Yes.
Or are they coming in off of the, like, that tail end of the Uintas or Camas?
You know, I think they're coming right above Wolf Creek off the National Forest, but I'm not 100% sure. They're not collared.
They're not collared, but that's most likely they're the ones coming off of Wolf Creek.
Could be coming off of Wolf Creek area, off the private there that aren't hunted, or
They kind of just shuffle around between the forest and Wolf Creek Ranch. So on Wolf Creek, they don't get a ton of pressure. They take a few spikes every year, but not
how
too
many tags are we talking?
4 private, 1 public. Does that sound right, Jim?
Yep.
Any other questions or discussion on this one?
How many acres is the Pole Canyon CWMU?
Just under 15,000.
So was this Coyote Little Pole before?
Yeah.
Okay, that's where I missed it.
Yeah. All right. Like I think is the Wasatch is an area where we really backed off cow tags for several years. We had a population objective increase there. We definitely increased. I'm familiar with this area. This is another one that makes sense. But also we're going to need a lot of help, I think, in the future as we move forward, harvesting cows up there too. And so I think just keep that in mind as we move forward. It's going to be a place where as we bump into that objective, that new objective, we're going to have to start applying pressure to antlerless animals.
I agree completely.
Okay, with that, looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Pole Canyon variance request for November 15th as presented.
Motion by Tim to approve as presented.
Second.
Second by Greg. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Alicia, great job. Thank you. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, final one, Taylor Hollow, and Shayla will present that one.
Jayla Walden, district biologist for East Canyon. It's actually Tunnel Hollow. Sorry, I gave you the wrong name because everybody likes to mix up their names. So Tunnel Hollow. Yeah, sorry. They are, when we had originally talked about it with the operator, we were going to request to go to November 30th, but I didn't realize we could go into December because I couldn't find any variance requests that went that late. However, if we can go to December 15th, that would be ideal. The dynamics on East Canyon, a lot of the elk are on unhuntable private land. Throughout the summertime, the later it gets in the season, they move from the south portion of the unit across to the north. So they move off of that private land that's basically a refuge, and they move onto this CWMU and then onto East Canyon WMA as well. And they kind of ping pong back and forth between this CWMU and another adjacent CWMU and public land. And so they don't, the bulls and the cows even don't do this until later in the season, and the bulk of them will move on in November and December. And so it just provides some additional hunting opportunity to harvest a few more bulls on the unit. If we align this into December, it may actually benefit the public some more besides just the public permits on the CWMU, because we have a late season hams hunt on the East Canyon unit now that runs from December 20th to December 28th. And so putting additional pressure on the CWMU right up until before that, you may push some of those bulls onto the public land adjacent to them. So we may be able to get a little bit more harvest there as well. So if we can go till December 15th, that would be fantastic.
Jayla, how many permits?
I think we were running 8, but let me double check that.
Darren, is the operator online? Or who is the operator?
I think so. Do you have it ready to go?
I can pull it up pretty quick. Yeah. Sorry, I should have had that off the top of my head.
I show that there's only one public bull permit.
Oh yeah, so there will be one public permit, and I thought you meant total permits.
Sure, total for sure. Jayla, while you're looking that up, could this extension result in an increase in permits as well?
Possibly, yeah, it could.
Jayla, I have a question as well. How do they do with their cow harvest?
I actually haven't been asking them to take cows because this portion of the unit, they've actually gotten down to the point that I'm comfortable with where they're at elk number wise overall. There's some interesting dynamics where the portion of the unit that is over is primarily around Park City, where there's a lot of non-huntable private land. The portion of East Canyon that's farther to the north is kind of like the triangle between all of the highways between 66, 65, and 84. And the resident herd that spends most of their time there are fluctuating between 60 and 100 elk, which is completely reasonable. Some years we get an influx that move out of Park City over to the WMA, and some years like this year, very few of those elk ever actually move over. So they're wildly inconsistent.
Thank you.
Tunnel Hollow, it borders on like East Canyon Resort and Broadmouth. Is that where Tunnel Hollow is? Like just on the north of East Canyon Reservoir?
Yeah, so they're just north, and then they push up all the way to 84, up into the like northeastern or southeastern side of Morgan.
Okay.
And they have 10 bull permits.
Jayla, can you remind us who the neighboring CWMUs are?
Yeah, it's 5S, and they've actually lost acreage, and so they are only a deer CWMU, and they're doing over-the-counter permits for elk now.
Any other questions on this one? For a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Tunnel Hollow variance exception to December 15th for hunting bulls.
Motion by Greg,
Second.
second by Gary. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So that concludes the action item portion of tonight's meeting. But the division would like to have a brief discussion with the committee about some potential rule changes. We don't want the committee to be surprised if they see a rule change come through the rack or the board. So with that, Darren?
Yeah, so we've had a couple things come up, and the director's office wanted to look at a couple of at these things. So we wanted to present this for the committee and just have a discussion about your feelings about both. So I think that the first one, we've had some producer with the new baiting rule. The code says that if an animal is coming or going from a bait site, that it's illegal to take it. But in practice, what we find is that some of these elk may have visited a bait site, but they're miles away on a ridge, and our enforcement folks would like some clarification about whether or not those can be taken. We feel like, especially on units that are over objective, we don't want to hinder any kind of take of cow elk if they've been to a bait site. So potentially, we'd look at a rule change that would put a buffer around the bait site, and if the elk are beyond that distance, then they could be taken. So,
And I think a better way to even describe it,
Yeah,
not a buffer, but to define a distance.
a distance. Yeah.
Right now, there is no distance. And so potentially, if your neighbor is baiting elk and you're trying to harvest elk, your hunters are in violation of the law because there is no distance. It's just going to or coming from. And it's putting a lot of folks in a really weird and awkward situation of we're being asked to get this, but then we have other activities going on in surrounding lands, and it's putting even our enforcement officers in a weird situation with it. Like, well, if I'm not the one baiting, or if it's miles away, deer feeding station. I'm not endorsing deer feeding, by the way. How is that impacting the elk harvest? I don't think we have hard and fast what that distance will be. And it's probably actually a change to the big game rule, but it primarily affects and impacts CWMUs and private land, and that's why we're discussing it here.
Yeah, so whatever your thoughts are, we'd be interested in any kind of feedback as we maybe move this forward.
Darren, what are your thoughts? I mean, does the division have an opinion? Have you guys discussed internally what would be a comfortable distance to say somebody's legal or not?
We've thrown a few out. I think, a couple 100 yards to, quarter mile, but, I'm happy to take any. The idea here is that if an animal is far enough away that bait site isn't the reason that it's there, we could finesse it. I'm open to suggestions on distances, but there was something else I was going to add on this. I'll think of it while you're talking, I'm sure. But so, Mike, maybe that's a cop out. I mean, we can pick a number. We can pick a number ourselves, but if anybody has any strong feelings, we'd be happy to listen to them.
I've had a fair amount of discussion with folks about that too, Mike and Darren, and a distance and somewhat of a close distance, I think, is probably prudent, because you think about that, some of these folks running, ranching operations, and they've got a feed row running out there, and we have a bunch of elk coming in, and for us to effectively do our job of staying on top of these elk and continuing to harvest them, you put that out there at a mile, and man, you sure cut off a lot of ground for us to do some good work with that. So I like your suggestion being in more of that couple 100 yards kind of an idea that keeps us, well away from any kind of feed that they might be hitting, but letting us still manage the herds. I'd like to hear what you have to think.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going, is they want to tie anybody's hands. I mean, we could get really, and say out of visual sight, and be on the other side of the hill if they're not determined to be on the feed site. I mean, because the agriculture plays a huge role in, a lot of a lot of things. And if it's going to be determined a bait station or feed station, or, I don't know what the clarification is there. We wouldn't want to inhibit somebody from harvesting elk because of that.
The agricultural processes aren't baiting.
So if they put out a feed
Technically in
row,
code,
it's
they're
not-
exempted.
Oh.
Yeah. It still, without a definition, it's been hard for us to navigate.
So this was passed into code through the legislature.
That's right.
So
I
what
mean,
is their intent?
So I was going to say that, Mike, we have to navigate the intent of the code and apply some sort of quantitative value, because right now there is none. And so here you hit it nail on the head. The code says that hunting over bait, hunting an animal going to or coming from bait, those are all illegal. It does exempt what it calls it typical agronomic practices. So a feedlot, salt for cattle, things like that are being used for cows, that doesn't count. But what it also does is, without any sort of distance, what I said before, is it inhibits one individual's ability to manage if another individual right next door decides to feed, even if they're 4 miles away.
Yeah.
In some cases.
If those elk are visiting that site.
And that is not working for us. That is putting everybody in a bad spot. I mean, there are even times where you may be hunting a CWMU not knowing at all that your neighbor is feeding deer and inadvertently getting some elk coming in and out.
Well, it used to be with turkeys, you couldn't bait and hunt within a quarter mile of the bait. And so quarter mile's kind of been standard. And a quarter mile is 400 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And with our technology of today, like, you could sit in your hay bait and shoot an elk 400 yards away that just left the bait. So I don't think it should be any closer than a quarter mile. And if the intent of this is this just with cow elk, or are we talking buck deer? Are we talking, because that's a huge difference.
The code is for all big game.
Yeah.
That's a good question, Mike. I think what we envisioned was cow elk, but we can discuss it more.
Yeah. So I personally would hate to take the teeth out of the baiting law that was passed by our legislators, who will, if the wrong thing gets passed into rule, we'll just swoop in and rechange it. So
it is a hard thing to navigate.
Yeah.
Like,
So
it is.
I think like a quarter mile, and it was brought up, like, managing our cow elk. Well, if there's an issue managing our cow elk, then the director has the authority to write an exemption, right? Where not in their code.
So the way it was passed, I'm trying to remember this because I haven't read it for a little bit, but there can be an exception, but it's not. It doesn't work like that. We looked at issuing the possibility of issuing a COR for this, and it's only in a depredation situation.
Yeah.
So if it's not a depredation situation, you can't do it. That the way it currently is written, and we're not. I understand that this is a difficult one, but if we don't quantify it, it becomes ambiguous both ways, and it's hard to make a case too. So
That was the other thing I was going to add, is that we have talked to our attorneys, and we're going to need to navigate all of that as well, just to make sure we're legal. But we were interested in the feedback from the committee as we move forward. So this is helpful.
yeah, and I understand a lot of the concerns.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'd be a quarter mile or more. I wouldn't be,
Could we clarify if the turkeys are actually a quarter mile? If that's
let me see.
Can we define it by property boundary? I mean, if Gary's
Potentially.
feeding, but I'm the neighbor and I'm not on that property at all, am I legal?
Not right now, you're not. And that, I mean, the whole thing gets difficult. Yeah, because then, I,
But these are pretty good.
we
sized
can
lots,
evaluate
correct?
that. This is not an easy issue.
What is considered baiting?
Placing something on the landscape with the intent.
I
to
can find
people
that
up.
here in a second.
I'd have to read it.
Yeah,
again, but,
I
mean, that's
probably
what it
should have
is.
had it up, sorry. Looking at the turkey stuff right now.
So Covy, let me just see if I understand what you were just using the example that Mike mentioned. If a neighbor was on their fence line and an elk, a deer, whatever, came and crossed that fence, but was only 200 yards from what you would be considered a bait site, that neighbor would be breaking the law by harvesting that deer?
Currently. Absolutely. Yeah. Because it's overbait coming from or going to is the way it's currently written without any sort of distance.
Yeah, I'd like what Mike said a little bit about, private property. Like, I mean, if I was on our ranch and the neighbor, throwing some apples out and, I didn't know about it, I was unaware of it. I also see how it can be abused just like anything else in this world. But so I think maybe you take into consideration the private land and that, the land ownership changes. And then I think, I really like the no baiting laws. So I'm probably not the guy to ask because I'm always going to err on the side of, I mean, I've seen the destruction of our, especially our mature deer and especially mature deer through baiting.
I think though, it's not so much about the baiting laws, it's about legality. I mean, because the guy that's in trouble is not the guy that's baiting. That's what I think we're trying to define and keep him
exactly
out of the sling, right?
Yeah.
In my mind. So, I mean, I'm with you on the baiting laws. I wouldn't like somebody to be in trouble for inadvertently shooting something on their property because the neighbor's baiting.
I completely agree with that.
So that's kind of where my head was at.
I think we're all on that page, and that's what the division's trying to solve. So,
Just to summarize this back from the committee, I'm hearing a lot of different things, but what I'm hearing in general is there's a lot of support for the baiting law that's on the books. We don't want that to be diminished or go away. But I'm also hearing that this group, if we can navigate this with our legal counsel and other things, this group is okay with us defining some sort of reasonable distance under what a baited area is and what going to and coming from means.
To and coming from is the difficult part.
Yeah,
because
yes.
your elevation's higher than mine, and I'm baiting and you're not. Those elk or deer or whatever going up and down the mountain, that's going to and coming from. And that part's what makes it difficult, in my opinion.
But if we can define that reasonable distance of what going to and coming from means, then we have something. And I think we can take this back and very cautiously try to work on something. I just don't think we wanted to hit this group with surprise at their back in the board.
And that's very valuable feedback. That's it's good to hear those opinions.
I think it's a good idea. If we can find out what the turkey number is, we can at least justify.
Yeah, I just did a quick look, and I can't find a distance, and maybe it's in a different rule, but it does say it's less restrictive for turkeys than for big game. It has like a 10-day limit beyond, once the bait's up for 10 days, and it has some language about you can't take a turkey that you reasonably would know. There's some sort of wiggle room in there about whether you knew it was going to bait or not, and that's not in the big game baiting
So
stuff.
let me ask this, and maybe just bear with me for a second. We're talking about baiting, so we're not talking about agriculture. We're talking about somebody doing something illegal to start with, correct?
Well, baiting's illegal, but feeding's not illegal.
Right, but we've already defined that feeding's not illegal.
Well, but feeding wildlife isn't illegal.
No, okay, I got you. But the guy feeding his cows and putting out a half-ton bale of hay or whatever, however many on a feed row, we've determined not to be illegal.
Yes, and the individual feeding deer is not breaking the law either, or the individual feeding elk is not breaking the laws currently written either.
What's illegal is shooting, take.
You can't take it.
Right.
If you're doing that. Yeah.
So where this comes into a bigger concern a lot of times is when you have multiple landowners
Feeding
in an area
deer,
with different
primarily.
philosophies.
And then somebody on a different property taking an animal
Mhm.
within a close enough proximity to determine the
Going to or
kill
coming
to and
from.
from.
Yep.
The to and from is the hang up for me.
Yep.
Got it.
Because you can't have.
And that's an important part of the baiting law, because if it's just overbait and you don't take into account to and from, you're really minimizing what that means. So again, that becomes ambiguous at that point. So it's hard. I think we've heard some stuff that'll help us a little bit and some of the concerns. I also think I'm acknowledging, like, with the committee, that this is not an easy thing.
Seems like too, a lot of the baiting issues we had were bow. Don't you think? Like Mike was talking about the big game, all the big bucks that got killed. I mean, that was a big part of it was with the bow. I think you could establish a yardage that makes that more difficult for sure.
Yeah.
And we can look at this through the eyes of managing populations and harvesting antlers.
Yeah, that might be
Because I think that's actually the vision or view that we have right now. And so if we look at it that way, maybe that changes things too.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. So the second one is it involves this committee directly. And as you know, in the rule, the CWMU rule that we recently went through, we're requiring anybody that doesn't meet their antlerless harvest objectives, there's like 3 categories, they don't to come to the committee and present that. We've had one meeting where we've done that. The way that meeting went is that our biologists came in. If they didn't have any concerns about, we basically give you a list. These are the people that fall into these categories. And then our biologists came and would kind of explain either why they didn't make it, and that was reasonable, and there were some reasons, or in some cases where they were not meeting their quotas and not doing what we were asking them to do. So I guess just some feedback from all of you about that process. Does that work? That can wind up being kind of a long meeting, maybe not as long as this one. Would you feel comfortable perhaps having us do a little bit of vetting and maybe we could save some time if biologists are good, present a list and explain why we're good? Or do you want to go through each one? If we want to change going through each one, I think we need to tweak the rule a little bit. So that'd be the second issue, potentially. But again, it's your committee, so.
So Darren, for me, both you and Covy and Chad, of course, previously, have done a really good job helping steer us when you had frustrations with areas and CWMUs that were stuck with a problem and not really addressing it. So do we put huge weight on what your biologists and what you folks are thinking? Absolutely. And I would support everything you're saying right there. Love to speed up a meeting and get through it. I think you guys have been fabulous at telling us where the problems are, helping direct us so that we can address them. And I think we've done a very effective job at doing that. So why it's so important, though, for us to kind of trust you and your biologists is that these are wild animals and our seasons are wild and crazy. And year to year, you don't know what's going to happen. And so one year you're going to have people just hammer on the cows, and the very next year they might not get any. It's nuts. Being in this industry, we all know it's nuts. So I would love to see that. And certainly for me personally, I'd be happy to have you guys shoulder some of that, expedite our meeting process, but certainly keep us in touch when we really have troubles. It's not just a benefit to the public. It's the big and overarching problem is that we're getting these elk taken care of, which, hey, gives our public a good benefit too. But so would really like to, I would really lean heavily on what you have to say if they're putting that kind of effort in and helping our public hunters succeed and control those herds.
I agree.
Great.
I think I feel the same way. If it's something egregious, they should probably come in and we leave that up to you and the biologists.
Yeah, I don't think it'd wind up being a whole lot different than what we did this year or last, I guess, fall of last year. But Mike, you were on that. Well, a couple of you were, but go ahead.
Yeah, I just think back to what Brock McMillan said in that committee. He said that those biologists have to work with the CWMU operators, and they have to go live there, and they have to go to church there and see them at the grocery store and all that. And so me personally, I don't need to see the biologists come and give anything. In fact, on that day, I'd be fine if the biologist stayed home. And you can just get up there and say, hey, these are the numbers. Here's a couple, stars of maybe why, what happened. That might speed the meeting up a little bit, but then we're not putting the individual biologist in the crosshairs. And so I think it's important to have them come back if they're not getting close to their harvest rates, just because if they don't, then other mechanisms can kick into play, and then that, as you know, that large rep that can eat into the sportsman's opportunity.
Yeah,
every cow elk that we allow the private, hunters to shoot is a loss of opportunity from the permit split ratio. So,
I think one of the things that we're dealing with is like you take a year like this year. And we've had so many operators work their guts out to try to hit the minimum harvest standards that we've set for them, and they are not going to hit it. And a couple of them have come to us super frustrated that they've put in all this effort and they feel like it's a punishment to come here. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And I guess what we're asking for is at the leadership level, probably some discretion to say, and not put the biologists in a bad spot, but even at the leadership level to say, hey, no, you didn't hit your harvest standards and you're going to go before the CWMU Advisory Committee, or hey, this year was different and we're going to give you some grace. That's what I think we're talking about, Mike. I don't know if it's a good idea or a bad idea. I can see the benefits, and I think we can hold the line, but I also realize this is a little different than what the committee asked for.
Yeah, and I agree completely with what you said. That's why I said there could be an asterisk there that's like, hey, like the operator wouldn't even have to show up, but I think it would be good to present that information to the committee saying, hey, CWMU X didn't, they got 20%, harvest rate, but here's why. And that's why they're not here today. And that's why the biologist isn't here, or, but then we kind of know going forward, and the biologist knows going forward that they've probably got to kill more the next year. Because if we don't kill them this year and then we don't kill them next year, that's where the compounding problem comes in. And that's where the accountability comes in of presenting something like that to a committee like us, where we can be like, okay, how do we remedy that?
And this year being unique,
yes.
They get a pass, but there's also a trend, and there's historical data that may show A, B, and C haven't killed their cows and have been a problem for some time. This year they get a pass, but the last two or three, they don't. So we'd like to see those guys, I think, in my opinion.
I think definitely those
that are habitual
CWMUs that fall into those kind of categories, we're definitely going to bring before their groups and try to come up with some remedies. It'd be the ones that, that for some reason, the stars didn't quite align, or we could see how they can make it up. Maybe, as Covy said, maybe this is something the director could say, hey, we feel good about these. We'd still give you who they are and the explanation for why we're not concerned. And that's something we could give you ahead of the meeting, and then maybe we don't spend a ton of time in the meeting and just go through the ones that are
that we need
So-
to deal with. And yeah, we don't need to have the
Yeah,
biologist come and do that. if we don't.
Maybe between what you and Mike, and maybe there's a hybrid way to do this.
Yeah.
Where we present it, but we also present like trends, issues, problems, and concerns. Instead of saying everybody's got to come here and tell us, we say, okay, this is this category, which is just bad luck this year, no snow. This is this category, which is a trend of 5 years of bad luck.
Right.
Just kidding.
This is the hot button topic in CWMUs. Like
Right.
behind the scenes, this is what everyone who's doing elk archivist, this is what they're talking about. And there is something to, hey, I'm just going to get out, right? We're starting to see that. And I worry about that. You kind of feel, you hear chatter, right? And I think if we push too hard, that's what will happen, to be pretty honest. I really do. So I think we do know the egregious actors. It's so easy to tell, right? It's just like, oh yeah, we didn't kill a cow elk again, right? But there are people who really are trying. I talked to a bunch of them at the meeting last week, and they're like, I killed one of my 7 or whatever, right? And we've been hunting our guts out, and we've had public hunters that have been on our ranch for 20 days. And so it's, I think we have to be a little careful, and I like this idea of just having Darren present it. I think that's smart. And I've been really leery. I've been on this committee a long, long time, and this is the reason I would like to get off this committee, because I don't want to be the judge who's like, you can't kill cow elk, you're done. That's really hard, but maybe it gets to that at some point. But I think that's the exception, not the rule.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of, but I actually, I'm not a stick person. I'm a carrot person. And I think some of the change that we've seen in the program has come because of this consequence. Like, just being completely honest. There was a long time where we talked and asked and begged and pleaded, and it was, well, what are you going to do? And when it became more real, we did see a change where it was like, okay, got it. And some of them said, okay, I'm going to leave. But a lot of them said, okay, I'm going to work harder. I think having some flexibility here is good. Ultimately, I think with bad actors and areas where we're struggling, we're going to need this committee. So if the committee is okay with that, we'll take a stab at something that finds, because right now it's pretty cut and dry. There's not a lot of flexibility for us. We'll take a stab at something that we think works, and then have some more discussions.
I agree with what you're saying, Covy. And, going back to the biologist, Mike hit on an interesting thing, and it is certainly important that we don't put them in a tough spot. However, I would hope, because we have put so much attention on the cow harvests, that the operator would be calling their biologist and saying, hey, I'm a month into this thing and we've got a problem. Maybe come up here and observe it. And hopefully they're giving you feedback that way, because you're not going out there and we're not going out there.
And
But
that
the
did
biologists
happen.
need to give us that info.
Yeah, that did happen this year with the way, and there were a lot of guys that were real worried. They were really trying hard, and those are the guys that we don't want to beat over the head.
Absolutely.
But the ones that just don't seem to ever be able to, there's always an excuse, or they just can't seem to pull it off. Those are the ones we definitely want the committee to weigh in on. So that's helpful. I appreciate that.
The one other thing that came up is, and I think we can handle it through variance requests, but I almost wonder if, some people are starting to see, well, man, we could kill some of these elk coming off of these non-huntable areas at a little bit different time. And the encouragement from the division could be to have them look into variance requests and try to shoot some of those elk, even to the point where, maybe there's a different, season in the CWMU. So we're not doing just variance requests. We're doing, another season that's 3 weeks long on a CWMU that feels like they can handle it and have that harvest. And I don't ever want to take away from their flexibility though, so it'd be kind of a fine line there, but
It's helpful.
Okay,
Well,
that was really helpful. I appreciate the feedback. If there's no other questions, Covey, I think that we're good.
Good.
We did it.
we'll get this, the meeting notes together, summarize the motions and get back to you. Appreciate everybody tonight. And with that, I think we've got one more motion to make. So
Motion to adjourn.
motion adjourned.
Second.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.